Sori is a lonely loser living in a village beyond the clouds with selfish gods who don't care if the world is about to end. But when a strange girl enters his worthless life, he sets out on a journey to save the world, with the goal to make gods and humans live together in harmony again. The story begins in a forest where Alicia, a young knight, is wandering alone. As she steps into a mysterious ruin, she breaks down emotionally, and a strange creature residing within the ruins silently observes her. Unaware of its presence, Alicia falls asleep right there, and when she wakes up the next morning, she notices a mural on the wall showing a hero brandishing the sacred blade. Recognizing it as the mural of the shepherd, Alicia begins inspecting it closely, while the peculiar little creature from the night before playfully mimics her movements behind her back, completely unnoticed. She then pulls out a history book that documents the legend of the shepherd. According to it, there once existed a sacred realm inhabited by divine beings who granted blessings to humanity in exchange for prayers. These beings were the seraphim, and their capital stood high above even the loftiest peaks. The gates to this divine city would only open for the shepherd, the spiritual warrior chosen to guide mankind. Wielding power bestowed upon them by the seraphim, the shepherd descended to the world below and began cleansing it of darkness, bringing salvation wherever they went. However, Alicia sees this tale as nothing more than folklore. Believing that the world is all ready, she stops mid-sentence and closes the book without finishing her thought. The mysterious creature tries to get her attention, but she neither notices it nor hears its voice. Just then, a swarm of insects begins pouring into the ruins, and to protect her, the creature steps in, shielding her with its powers before unleashing a magical attack that obliterates countless insects in an instant. But no matter how many are destroyed, more keep coming from every direction. The ruins begin to collapse from the chaos, and Alicia uses the moment to escape, leaping into a hidden passage below. But she trips, falling into an underground water flow that pulls her deeper into the ruins, into what appears to be another dimension entirely. Emerging into a new hallway after drifting through the water, Alicia collapses and loses consciousness. When she awakens, she finds herself in a hidden floor that has remained completely untouched by time. With no other option, she walks through the corridor and eventually reaches the outside world, an untouched meadow beside a towering waterfall, serene and beautiful. At its center stands a grand oak tree, and nearby, she spots a small stone pillar bearing the mark of the shepherd. She has no idea why it's there, and her confusion deepens when the pillar moves on its own, gliding toward the waterfall. Suddenly, it begins to glow, shaking the ground beneath her, and from behind the waterfall, a hidden pathway emerges. The moment triggers her memory. The mark of the shepherd opens the path to the seraphim. As she steps into the newly revealed path, the scene shifts, introducing us to a completely new character. A ruin explorer named Sori is seen climbing a rocky mountain rendered in questionable CGI, and at the summit, he discovers a massive ruin. Sori isn't alone in his journey. He's accompanied by his friend Micleo, who stops him before he rushes in, warning him to be careful since he's just a normal human, hinting that Micleo might not be. They both enter the ruin, mentioning that the elders must already know of this place. While Micleo stays alert, Sori finds an illusion stone. Upon deactivating it, a secret passage opens, revealing deeper ruins and untold mysteries. But before they can proceed any further, the man who set the illusion in place appears, warning them to turn back, saying this path was sealed long ago. Both Sori and Micleo refer to this mysterious figure as their grandpa, hinting that they too might not be ordinary beings. The two childhood friends return home, frustrated that their grandpa won't let them explore the ruin. Determined to understand the reason, Sori starts going through a list of old books and eventually stumbles upon a passage that mentions how, long ago, in the age of the gods, the seraphim descended and restored light to the world. However, in time, the seraphim scattered across existence to protect and sustain it. Most of them now reside in the capital of the seraphim. Based on this, Sori begins to suspect that the ruins they discovered may either lead to or be the capital itself. Micleo reads further into the details about the capital of the seraphim, a place where exceptional human beings are granted the ability to communicate directly with the seraphim. In this sacred exchange, people offer their prayers, and the seraphim in return bless them with divine grace. With this newfound knowledge, Sori becomes even more determined to reach the capital, no matter what his grandpa says. Mikleo, although hesitant, decides to join him. Still, he voices a concern. He's noticed that the ruin lies beyond the bounds of their Gramps' protection. What this truly means isn't explained, but the two gear up and prepare for the journey anyway. Meanwhile, on the other side, Alicia is now walking down a pitch-dark corridor, anxiety gripping her with every step as she fears something dangerous might be waiting ahead. Suddenly, an eerie silence swallows the entire space, intensifying her fear to the point where she screams at the top of her lungs. Honestly, the dumbest move you can make in an unknown, potentially hostile location. But hey, after letting all that bottled up fear out, she manages to calm herself and continues pressing forward through the darkness. Back with the boys, the two ruin explorers are now in an unspoken race to see who can reach the capital of the Seraphim first. Sori finds himself at the edge of the ruin and bravely uses a rope to climb across floating pavilions, eventually reaching a chamber that he identifies, thanks to the Book of Celestial History, as the Mural of the Shepherd. It's the exact same mural Alicia encountered earlier in another surface ruin. This confirmation makes Sori realize that this ruin is indeed the fabled capital of the Seraphim. Just as he begins to celebrate the discovery, he pauses, his attention drawn to two statues in front of the mural. Each one holds a single glove, one on the left, one on the right. Noticing the mark of the shepherd on the gloves, Sori hesitates, wondering if he should wear them. Before he can decide, Mikleo catches up and immediately grabs the glove away from him, warning that putting it on could be dangerous. Mikleo then admits his frustration at losing the race to Sori once again, but quickly moves on to ask what they should do next. At that very moment, dark clouds gather overhead, and bolts of lightning begin to flash throughout the chamber. Alicia, who has also reached the same height level of the ruin as the boys, sees the storm raging outside and, as expected, becomes absolutely terrified, the usual reaction. Elsewhere back at the settlement, Sori and Mikleo's Gramps, revealed to be Master Zenris, is informed by his subordinate Kaim about the two boys' reckless actions beyond the area of protection. But Zenris says he was already aware and assumes that they disobeyed him simply because the secrets hidden within the ruins were too tempting to ignore. For now, the old man decides not to intervene and instructs Kaim to stand down as well, only adding that if the kids dare cross into his territory, they'll have to face his wrath. Meanwhile, Alicia continues running through the ruins until she reaches a creepy-looking temple hidden at the end of the path. The statue inside begins to glow ominously, and in the next instant, it strikes her with a bolt of lightning, shattering the platform beneath her and sending her plummeting below, where, once again, she loses consciousness. At the same time, Sori and Mikleo are running through the ruins too, and they quickly realize that the lightning is being summoned by the ruin itself. One of the bolts nearly hits Sori, and although he manages to dodge it just in time, both he and Mikleo suddenly fall through a collapsing section of the floor. As they're falling, Mikleo uses his hydro magic, surging currents, to soften Sori's landing, and then lands on his own feet with effortless grace. They find themselves in the very same temple where Alicia was just struck, and below them, they spot her lying unconscious. But instead of rushing to help, they freeze. That's because they realize something. Alicia is a human. Which raises the real question, does that mean Sori and Mikleo aren't? Mikleo is completely baffled, unable to figure out how a human could have made it all the way up here, and wants nothing to do with her. After all, their Gramps has strictly warned them to avoid humans. But Sori doesn't share the same mindset. He refuses to abandon someone in need, and manages to convince Mikleo to help her anyway. To get down to her, Sori whips out his trusty rope, using it like a grappling hook. He grabs Mikleo by the waist and brings him down along for the ride. Once there, they realize there's still a massive gap between them and where Alicia is lying. But Sori, ever sharp-eyed, notices a transparent bridge connecting the distance. Micleo then uses his magic to reveal the bridge fully. Excited and full of curiosity, the two cross the newly revealed path, wondering who could have possibly constructed such a thing. Clearly, no human technology could have created this. Judging by how ancient the ruins are, Sori begins to suspect this place dates all the way back to the age of mythology. They finally reach Alicia, but just before waking her, Micleo stops Sori, urging him to reconsider what they're doing. Sori ignores the hesitation and gently wakes her up anyway. As she slowly opens her eyes, he feels relieved to see that she's okay and offers his hand to help her get up. Alicia stands on her own and thanks Sori both before asking who he is. Sori introduces himself, and right away, Alicia asks the question that's been burning inside her ever since she saw the mural. Is Sori the shepherd? Sori claims to be a regular human, which lets down Alicia. He asks her if she's a human like him, stating that it is the first time he's seen a human coming up here. This implies that this temple must be connected to the capital of Seraphim, and that makes Alicia believe that the shepherd should be here. However, Sori replies in the negative, having not seen the shepherd, but mentions that he did come across the mural of the shepherd. Alicia starts to give up on her dream to find the shepherd, and states that the world can no longer be saved, leaving both Sori and Micleo confused as to what she means. In any case, the duo cannot just let the poor girl be by herself, so Sori decides to bring her to his home, despite Micleo's disapproval, who thinks letting a human in will get him in trouble. But Sori doesn't care. What matters to him is helping someone in need. Micleo still tries to convince him to reconsider, asking if he doesn't find it suspicious that Alicia won't even tell them her name. But Sori, who assumes she has her reasons for it, doesn't mind it as he believes she is a good person. Alicia, who is walking a bit behind them, hears Sori's comment and thanks him for not thinking badly of her. Micleo warns Sori about their grandpa's wrath, and when Sori is about to reply to him, Alicia becomes confused as to why he is talking to air, revealing that she cannot see Micleo. Micleo has already learned from his grandpa that humans cannot see him, indicating that he is something else. Perhaps he himself is a seraphim, considering how the old man earlier stated to himself that he didn't want Sori to enter his territory, in other words, the ruins they were inside of. In any case, Sori brings Alicia outside to take her back to his home territory. They begin their journey on a beautiful floating island at the very top of the world, and Alicia is amazed by the view, stating that this must be the home of the seraphim. Sori doesn't correct Alicia, but having read the Celestial Record Book, he knows that humans tend to refer to gods, spirits, monsters, anything supernatural, as seraphim. Alicia claims to have also read the same book and asks Sori the name of his village. When he reveals he is from a place called Elysia, she becomes even more amazed. They reach Sori's village, and Micleo takes off first to report the incident to Grandpa Zenris. The residents of the village come to see Sori, and Sori excitedly goes ahead to introduce Alicia to everyone. But before he can speak, Alicia begs the seraphim to heed her words, revealing that she cannot see anyone except for Sori, and informs them that the world, as prophesied, has been enshrouded by darkness. And to save the world from its inevitable doom, she requires their help, begging them to lend her their aid to drive out the darkness again. But no one speaks to her, since they know she can't hear them. One of the residents of the place asks Sori to make Alicia leave, as he is certain she is going to invite disaster here. All of the residents then leave, and Sori, feeling helpless, goes to Grandpa Zenris, who immediately scolds the lad for bringing a human into their sacred land. Sori apologizes by constantly bowing his head all the way down to Zenris, while Micleo manages to convince Zenris to listen to Sori's argument. So, the old man agrees, and first asks Sori why he broke the rules by interacting with a human. Sori explains that he only did so because his ethics didn't allow him to leave her in that state. Zenris knows what Sori has done, cannot be undone anymore. But still, there is a way to protect everyone's peace here, and that is to send Alicia back to her mortal realm below immediately. Zenris states that humans only have brought and will continue to bring disaster to their lands. But Sori argues that he himself didn't bring any disaster to them, considering that he too is a human. But Zenris thinks that is only because Sori has spent a long time here, acquiring both the ability to see and communicate with them, and that makes him more than an ordinary human. I can also make the argument that it actually makes Sori the shepherd, so technically, he is the one who has to convince the Seraphim to help mankind. But whatever. Sori brings up the book that Zenris gave him, mentioning that in the book it's written that humans and Seraphim once lived peacefully together. So why is it that the Seraphim no longer think they can coexist with humans? Regardless, Sori points out the fact that Alicia actually believes in the Seraphim, and that, for Sori, should be enough reason for them to help her. Their discussion goes nowhere, and Sori returns to his house where Alicia is staying temporarily. He makes dinner for her, and while eating, she apologizes to him for suddenly talking to thin air earlier, indicating that Sori hasn't told her yet that the Seraphim live here in this village. Alicia expresses her doubts, stating that it was stupid of her for thinking that the Seraphim exist, and Sori doesn't say anything regarding it. He changes the topic, asking how things are at the place where she is from, and she tells him that she's from a place called Lady Lake, which is the capital of the country Highland. Sori has heard that Lady Lake is where the legend of the sacred blade takes place. The legend tells about the one who pulls out the blade, protected by the Lady of the Lake, and becomes the shepherd. Unfortunately, Alicia states that there hasn't been anyone who has managed to pull out the sacred blade yet. Later at midnight, while Alicia is sleeping, Sori heads outside where he finds Micleo standing. He's been here since the evening waiting for Sori to get out, since he cannot enter, because if Alicia sees the door opening on its own, she'll grow suspicious. Anyway, Micleo is here with their Grandpa Zenris's message to Sori, and he quotes, "It's unknown when Alicia the human will cause a disaster, but driving her away is also unwise, so I will wait till she is ready herself to leave this place." Sori can't believe the old man agreed to let Alicia stay and excitedly thanks both Zenris and Micleo before heading inside. Micleo, meanwhile, recalls Zenris's words, who expressed his worries for Sori being too honest and just. Micleo, also understanding that, wonders what he is going to do for his naive brother/childhood friend. The next morning, Alicia heads out with Sori to hunt for today's meal, and Sori, using a bow and arrow, hunts a wild boar. Alicia, who's been assuming Sori has been living in this strange place alone, asks him if his life has been like Robinson Crusoe forever. Sori replies in the affirmative, stating that he's never been out of this village for as long as he can remember. Alicia suddenly feels like she's being watched by someone and turns around, and Sori, who notices Zenris in the distance, instead of brushing it off, tells her that someone might want to know more about her. Alicia realizes that Sori is trying to suggest that the Seraphim are here, but she assumes he's just playing along with her to make her feel better. Later that night, Sori is seen reading the Celestial Records book again, while Alicia is having a nightmare of a past event about a flaming tornado that destroyed her city. She wakes up terrified, and Sori comforts her, making her calm again. She sees the Celestial Records book in his hand and asks him about it, and he says that he's read this book hundreds of times, ever since he was a kid. Nobody asked, but Alicia shares her dream with Sori, which is to travel the world finding new ruins. And apparently, all readers of the Celestial Record have the same dream. So she assumes that Sori also has the same dream of exploring ruins. Alicia tells Sori that the world is no longer in a state for exploration and has been facing incomprehensible calamities, and that she too has experienced a terrible calamity, one that she still finds hard to believe was real. In that calamity, she watched her friends and family die, and those traumatic moments are engraved in her mind. And that is why she wants to find the shepherd, because according to this book, only the shepherd can restore the light of a world full of darkness. But now that she has reached the top of this world, she realizes that the shepherd doesn't exist, and the writings inside the book are just a bunch of fairy tales. She walks outside, unable to control her emotions anymore, and starts to cry. Everything noticed by Grandpa Zenris and his fellow seraphim. They pity her, but not enough to help her with her problems yet. Next early morning, Sori rushes to Micleo's house, asking him to give him the glove he took from the ruins yesterday, and then looks for Alicia, who he finds sleeping in the meadows. He notices his grandpa's blanket on her, meaning that the old man is looking out for her. So, he takes Alicia back to the ruins where he saw the mural, telling her that the seraphim are real because there is no one insane enough to go out of their way to build such a thing in the highest lengths of the sky only for a bedtime story. He shows Alicia the glove he found before, which has the mark of the shepherd, and assures her that the shepherd does exist. While saying so, he fools around and almost falls off the edge, but balances himself again, telling Alicia to keep believing in the celestial record. Since she told him her dream yesterday, he shares his, which is to make humans and seraphim live together in peace again. He believes the shepherd needs to come to make that dream come true, and hands the glove to Alicia, telling her to continue her journey to find the shepherd. Afterward, he bids farewell to Alicia. The seraphim gather too to see her off, and she leaves, thanking him for helping her, and finally telling him her name. She also apologizes to him for not telling him earlier, and reveals that she has felt the invisible presence of the seraphim here, calling it a shame that they didn't respond to her words, stating that even now she can sense them nearby. In any case, Alicia informs Sori about the Sacred Blade Festival that is starting soon in Lady Lake, and asks Sori to come there to take the Sacred Sword trial, since somewhere in her heart she believes that he is the shepherd. So she hands him back the glove he gave her and encourages him to take a step toward achieving his goal of uniting seraphim and humans. With that said, she finally leaves, and at that moment, the old man, Zenris, senses that someone else has invaded his territory. He immediately leaps to higher ground, but unable to see the intruder, realizes that they have masked their presence. Zenris calls everyone, informing them about the situation, telling them to search for the intruder who is possibly a Hellion. Everyone scatters around in search of the intruder, including Sori and Micleo, who rush together toward the forest, where they see a large explosion from the distance. There, they find the Hellion choking the neck of one of the residents here and bring out their weapons to fight this fiend. The Hellion laughs, underestimating Sori, and as expected, overpowers him completely, thrashing him from one side of the forest to the other. While Sori tries to defend himself, Micleo prepares an ice attack, launching several ice spikes toward the Hellion, every single one of which the Hellion evades. Realizing that Micleo is the only threat here, the Hellion jumps behind him, but Sori jumps in between them, just in time, striking him with his sword and sending him flying against a ruin wall. But the Hellion remains completely unscathed, so Zenris steps in, and sensing the overwhelming power of the old man, the Hellion flees from battle. Sori blames himself for this incident, assuming that bringing Alicia here caused this, and although Zenris agrees, stating that keeping Alicia away might have prevented this evil fiend from entering their realm, he also adds that blaming her or Sori is just selfish. The old man admits that the peace in this realm is directly connected to the outside world, so they cannot ignore the outside world's problems forever. Sori keeps thinking about the Hellion, his menacing smirk, and his comment about not wasting energy on fighting the old man, as he's here for the main course. It makes Sori wonder who this main course even is, and it hits him that perhaps the Hellion didn't come here to attack them, but is after Alicia. Realizing Alicia is in danger, Sori immediately steps out with all his gear, leaving his village in secret. Micleo stops him, stating that their grandpa already suspected that the Hellion might be after Alicia, and so Micleo had gone back to the ruins looking for her, but only found a dagger that belongs to the royal family of Highland, meaning Alicia is not just a knight, but of royalty. So Micleo suggests they use this clue to find Alicia at Lady Lake, implying that he wants to tag along with Sori on his journey to the human world, though he claims he's only doing so for Sori's safety. The two friends begin their journey, and Sori believes that their grandpa will be mad when he finds out. But Micleo reveals to him that the old man already knows of this and has wished the best of luck to both of them. Not long after, the two friends enter the human realm and arrive at the city of Lady Lake, which is completely overcrowded due to the upcoming Sacred Blade Festival. As Sori gets in line, a young redhead named Rose approaches him, asking if he's here for the festival as well. She warns him that general admissions are closing soon, but how could he possibly make it in time with such a long, never-ending line ahead? Rose tells him not to worry and advises him to use his pass to bypass the crowd and enter the city directly. However, when she finds out that he doesn't have a pass, she offers a solution. She tells him to tag along with her group, a merchant caravan called the Sparrow Feathers, who are protected under a free trade treaty and can enter the city without restriction. Thanks to their help, Sori is able to enter the city too. But before parting ways, Rose suddenly demands 500 gold from him, stating bluntly that nothing's free, mate. Unfortunately for Sori, where he comes from, such currency doesn't even exist. In fact, no currency exists at all. He tells her he has no money, but Rose doesn't buy it and starts rummaging through his bag. That's when she finds Alicia's dagger, and upon seeing the royal family's sigil engraved on it, her expression shifts to one of concern. Sori quickly explains that he can't give her the dagger because he came here to return it to someone he knows. Hearing this, Rose hands it back to him, saying he owes her one. Sori then heads inside the festive city with Rose and the invisible Micleo, and Sori is overjoyed because he hasn't seen such a lively place before. Rose gets going since she has to make money with her merchant group, who is waiting for her, and parts ways with Sori, wishing he enjoys the rest of the festival. With her gone, Micleo tells Sori to refocus on their goal of finding Alicia, when suddenly he almost collapses, stating that the heavy, spiteful atmosphere of this place is putting a heavy toll on him. So, Sori quickly finds an empty place for Micleo to take rest when he notices that the Hellion from before is in the crowd, smirking at them with an evil grin. Both of them become alerted by the Hellion and start rushing toward him. The Hellion, although fast, is caught by Sori, who, with his determination, catches up to him, demanding to know why he's after Alicia. The Hellion claims he's no longer after Alicia's life, referring to her as the princess, and claims he is only hanging around her because he's taken a liking to her. He believes that if he keeps staying near Alicia, she will keep presenting him with a good spectacle. However, he warns Sori not to let his guard down, because even if he isn't after Alicia, that doesn't mean no one else is. The Hellion mentions an active contract, one that makes Alicia a target for assassination, and states that someone who has never failed to fulfill their contract is currently after her. And with that warning, the Hellion escapes. Meanwhile, Alicia is with her teacher Maltran at the cityside graveyard to mourn for the deceased who were killed in the calamity at the town of Griel. Maltran discusses with Alicia about the political tension which led to Alicia arguing with Chancellor Bartlow, and Alicia explains that she only did this because a war is about to break out between this country, Highland, and the neighboring country, Roland's. She doesn't want to take a violent approach when the entire world's peace is at stake, and wants to avoid war to prevent an endless spiral of hatred. And that is why she argued with Chancellor Bartlow, who wants to start a war. Somewhere else, Chancellor Bartlow has already assigned 2 assassins to unalive Alicia, giving the excuse that he has to take this drastic measure because he believes Alicia is conspiring with the neighboring country, Roland's. The assassins don't want to hurt the princess, but Bartlow convinces them that Alicia is leading the country in the wrong direction, and that unaliving her will save many innocent lives, which, in truth, is total BS. The Hellion, who is chilling around in the city, comes across someone who notices his presence, and that forces him to hide. The rite of the warrior is finally about to begin, and both Alicia and her teacher Maltran are spectating this event. Sori and Micleo, in the crowd, notice a white-haired young girl unconscious below the sacred sword, and they recognize her as a seraph, a divine angel. Micleo assumes she must be the Lady of the Lake, the one Alicia mentioned back at their village. A knight comes first to lift the sword, and as he fails miserably, the Lady of the Lake wakes up, stating how dense the malevolence/spitefulness of this world has become. Maltran asks for the attention of the citizens, stating that for the past few years, they didn't hold this festival because of the state their world currently is in. But thanks to Princess Alicia's assistance, this festival can be held once more. Although the crowd is happy because of it, the ministers and the priest are visibly annoyed, while both the assassins and the Hellion are hidden in the crowd, waiting for the opportunity to attack Alicia. Sori wonders if there will be someone who will be accepted by the Lady of the Lake to become the shepherd. As every single one of the applicants fail, Alicia steps up to create a positive atmosphere, asking everyone to applaud for the 10 warriors who gave it a go, even though they failed. Regardless, she calls it a shame that no shepherd appeared this year either, but still keeps her hopes high, telling everyone that the shepherd is a savior who will work with the seraphim and cleanse the world of malevolence. She brings attention to the fact that their country, Highland, is in heated tension with their neighboring country, Roland's, and she makes it clear that this event wasn't held to raise morale for war. She did so to remind everyone that they must learn to coexist with their neighbors, just like the shepherd will help humans coexist with the seraphim. As she is saying all this, asking her people to stay calm, even if Roland intends to invade them, more malevolence is released, and it becomes so dense that Mikleo's heart starts aching in immense pain. Alicia completely fails to create a positive atmosphere, and the negative emotions of the people create so much malevolence that even the Lady of the Lake becomes worried. Seconds later, the accumulation of all that negativity summons a demonic beast, a terribly CG'd Hellion dragon, and its appearance alone starts killing off people before it can even touch them. As the dragon is about to attack Alicia, Sori steps in and gets slammed by the dragon's tail. Alicia is shocked to see Sori here, but there's no time for explanations, as everyone is now trapped inside this place that's burning and on the verge of collapsing. Alicia can't make sense of what's happening since she's unable to see the dragon, meaning no one except Sori, Mikleo, and the Lady of the Lake can actually see this abomination created by the animators. Thank the Lord for that. Sori approaches the Lady of the Lake, asking her to deal with the Hellion dragon, but she tells him that only a shepherd has the power to purify Hellions. Meanwhile, Alicia, witnessing Sori communicating with the seraphim, begins to believe that he might be the shepherd this world has been waiting for. Just then, among the 2 assassins hiding in the crowd, the female one lunges at Alicia with the intent to kill, but Alicia notices her in time and defends herself. Maltran is ready to jump in and assist her, but Chancellor Bartlow stops her, claiming the princess is a knight and should be able to protect herself. Instead, he orders Maltran to evacuate the crowd. His ridiculous order makes Maltran suspicious, but since she's only a knight, going against him would be seen as treason. Sori wants to help Alicia, but she tells him not to worry about her, and instead to focus on what only he can do. Trusting her words, Sori heads toward the sacred sword, but the Lady of the Lake stops him, asking why he wants to become the shepherd. She knows he has the strength to draw the sword, but before granting him the burden and responsibility of saving mankind, she needs to hear his resolve. Before answering, Sori asks for her name, and she reveals it, Layla. Calling her by name, Sori tells her about his dream to uncover the secrets of ancient ruins, because within them lies the forgotten truth of how humans and seraphim once lived together, and if purifying Hellions is the key to restoring that bond, then he's willing to take up that burden and become the shepherd. Layla accepts his conviction, and as Sori grips the sword, time itself comes to a standstill. The spirit of the sacred sword speaks to Sori, telling him that she will grant him the power of purification and unmatched strength, but it comes with a curse. This path will force him to make painful choices, and his journey will be a lonely one. But Sori accepts the burden, declaring that if it allows him to save people and pursue his dream, he'll carry it without hesitation. With that, he lifts the sword and divine energy surges through him, transforming him into a chosen savior. The sword spirit, Fethmus Mioma, appears before Sori, guiding him on how to control the power flowing within him. And with that, Sori unleashes a single purifying slash that cleanses the Hellion dragon, erasing all malevolence and proving to everyone that he is indeed their savior, the shepherd. But the overwhelming energy drain takes its toll, and Sori collapses from exhaustion, leaving Mikleo completely shaken and worried for his friend. Sori regains consciousness later, lying in a bed that seems to be inside one of Alicia's mansions, and finds both Mikleo and Layla sitting beside him. They are visibly relieved to see him awake, and Mikleo immediately checks on him, asking if he's feeling all right. From Mikleo, he learns that he had a high fever and was completely knocked out for the past 3 days. Layla then explains that when Sori became the shepherd, he formed a contract with her, granting him access to her divine artifact, the sword, known as Phethmus Mioma. She believes that his body couldn't handle the sudden surge of overwhelming power that came from becoming her vessel, and that's why he ended up completely drained. Regardless, Mikleo says that Sori's condition could have been far worse if Alicia hadn't saved him in time. Hearing Alicia's name, Sori immediately asks if she's okay, and at that exact moment, Alicia enters the room, visibly relieved to see that he's finally awake. She immediately orders her maids to prepare a heavy meal for him, and after satisfying his abnormally large appetite, she sincerely thanks him for saving everyone at the festival by pulling out the sword. She admits that her heart raced when she saw him become the shepherd, and ever since then, the only words that come to her mind are thank you, as she is truly grateful to him from the bottom of her heart. Wanting to express that gratitude in a meaningful way, Alicia decides to offer Sori a gift, presenting him with the official shepherd's outfit. Sori puts it on and accompanies her to the yard balcony, wearing the new attire. Alicia compliments how good he looks in it, and Layla too remarks how well the outfit suits him. Mikleo, on the other hand, is clearly jealous and stubbornly refuses to admit that Sori looks good. Alicia then becomes visibly confused, seeing Sori talking to what appears to be thin air, and asks if there are any seraphim nearby. Sori smiles and introduces the empty space on his left as his friend Mikleo, and the space on his right as Layla, the Lady of the Lake. But Alicia isn't thrilled to hear that. Instead, she feels disheartened that even though she's human just like Sori, she's helpless and can't share the burden he now carries to save the world. Layla wants to comfort her, but since Alicia can't hear her, she asks Sori to help. Layla instructs him to hold Alicia's hand, assuming that his spiritual connection might pass through physical contact. Sori does as she says, but nothing changes. Layla then comes up with another idea, asking Sori to keep his eyes shut while holding her hand. Still, there's no result. Mikleo blames Sori for not concentrating hard enough, and Layla begins to panic. Growing desperate, she tells Sori to keep his eyes closed, pinch his nose, and hold his breath. Sori goes through this unnecessary self-torture, and just then, Layla touches him, and finally, her voice reaches Alicia. Honestly, it's hard not to believe Layla did all of this just to mess with Sori, because in the end, all that was really needed was for her to touch him while he touched Alicia from the start. Anyway, Alicia is now able to hear both Layla and Mikleo, and she formally greets them, addressing both as superior beings worthy of respect. Layla wastes no time and immediately offers Alicia an important piece of advice, which is to never neglect the seraphim. Apparently, neglecting them gives rise to malevolence, and that very malevolence eventually brings calamity. It's now Mikleo's turn to speak, but Sori is already out of breath. He begs Layla to come up with a better method of communication, but she calmly states that the only way is for him to further harness his shepherd powers. Hearing that, Sori becomes determined to work harder than ever, so he can one day deliver the voices of the seraphim to everyone. But Layla makes it clear that it won't be so easy. Alicia is an exception, a special case who was born with a natural talent for perceiving the unseen. Alicia doesn't mind though, and to her, just knowing that the seraphim are by her side makes her heart race with emotion. In any case, Alicia now has to return to the castle to deal with her official duties. And since Sori has nothing else to do, Layla suggests they go out into the town as well. So they ride along in Alicia's carriage, and on their way they notice that every single house has raised the shepherd's flag. Alicia explains that the people did this of their own will, because they too have been waiting for the shepherd to appear and cleanse the world. Sori gets lost in his thoughts, hearing faint, eerie voices echoing in his mind, but he brushes it off, thinking it's just nerves. Micleo is surprised to hear that, since he didn't believe Sori was even capable of getting nervous. But when he looks at him and sees that Sori actually looks serious, Micleo becomes genuinely concerned. After reaching the city, they part ways with Alicia as she heads back to the castle, and just as Sori and Micleo begin walking, Sori nearly collapses, saying he suddenly feels incredibly nauseated. He explains that he was perfectly fine in the morning, but ever since they arrived in town, the nausea has just been getting worse. Layla immediately realizes what's happening. According to her, Sori is experiencing the malevolence that's blanketing the town. Sori finally begins to notice the dark, gloomy aura lingering in the air. Thanks to the power of the shepherd, he also detects a different kind of malevolence, something separate from the usual, something deeper. However, he isn't able to pinpoint exactly where it's coming from. With Layla's guidance and assistance, he sharpens his focus and finally identifies the source. It's coming from an entrance to some ruins hidden beneath the ground. Layla warns him to be careful since he's clearly unwell, but Sori insists that he's fine now. Besides, he wants to find out the truth. Why are ruins always filled with malevolence? On the other side, the King's Council holds a meeting where the Chancellor, Bartlow, demands that the princess currently overseeing the country hand over the shepherd to them. Alicia doesn't understand what he means. She cannot simply hand a person over like they're an object, so she asks him to clarify, and he elaborates that the council wants the shepherd under their control because they desire such immense power for themselves. Alicia, being the only sane one in the room, refuses to hand over Sori, openly going against the collective will of the council and making it clear that they will not lay a finger on the shepherd. Speaking of whom, Sori is now inside the ruins, searching for hidden rooms as he's reached the end of the path. After spending a minute or two investigating, he discovers a sealed door, which implies someone wanted to hide something inside very badly. Since it's sealed, there must be a key. Micleo notices a statue above them and places his hand on it, triggering a mechanism that causes a concrete block to emerge from the wall. Layla is impressed by the duo's ruin-exploring skills, and Sori proudly boasts that since childhood, exploring ruins 24/7 has been their only hobby. The block of concrete bears the crest of the Highland royal family, reminding Sori that he still hasn't returned Alicia's sword. Conveniently, the crest on her sword resonates with the one on the block, unlocking the sealed door and revealing another mysterious path where the malevolence grows denser and heavier. As they proceed, Sori spots a dragon statue and wonders why one was built here, considering dragons are incarnations of calamity, harbingers of destruction, and symbols of misfortune. Micleo senses something isn't right, and Sori suspects that the malevolence is coming from the statue. But Layla, with a tensed voice, informs them that the true source of malevolence is a hellion. Right then, it reveals itself above them, taking the form of hundreds of bats. Fortunately, Sori is currently overpowered, well, until the plot says otherwise, and uses his sacred sword to strike the hellions, while Layla prepares a massive fire spell and incinerates the remaining bats. After subjugating them, Layla expresses concern for Sori. Forming a pact with her has placed a great burden on his body. To lessen it, she literally enters Sori's body, only to come right back out because Sori finds it too weird. In any case, she informs Sori that from now on, as the shepherd, he will be able to form pacts with other seraphim to gain greater powers, but it will also increase the burden in his heart. That is why she highly recommends that he consider housing the seraphim within himself from now on. Moving forward, the malevolence still hasn't fully vanished. Feeling it radiating from deeper within, the group ventures further down a dark hallway that Layla lights up with her magic. What it reveals is shocking. It's a torture chamber used to hide the corpses of people the royal family likely silenced. This is the true nature of these ruins. Layla, who seems to have known this already, explains that those who rebelled against the rulers were secretly brought here and unalived, while the public was simply told they had disappeared. The unfulfilled desires and strong grudges of these unfortunate victims are what birthed this dense malevolence and caused the spawn of the Hellion bats. Hearing this dark truth, Sori wonders if Alicia knows about it. Layla silently shakes her head, meaning Alicia remains innocent. For now, wait till she's 50 or something. Joking aside, Layla explains to Sori that the Shepherd's ultimate mission is to purify the origin of all Hellions, the source of all malevolence, known as the Lord of Calamity, a being so powerful that its malevolence alone can alter the fate of the world. Unfortunately, Sori isn't strong enough to face him yet. He would be instantly devoured by the malevolence, and besides, the anime wouldn't even make it to a full season. So, Layla advises him to travel the world and seek his own answers before confronting the final boss. Suddenly, Micleo notices water forming beneath their feet, and Layla realizes that the very foundation of the city is soaked with malevolence. She jinxes it by speaking too soon, as water begins flooding the ruins, and the pressure starts to collapse the ceiling. Micleo quickly freezes the groundwater, buying them enough time to escape before the ruins are completely destroyed. They reach the upper floor just in time. But then the massive dragon statue comes crashing down towards Sori, who just stares at it like, yeah, that's not happening, I've got plot armor. And yeah, Micleo saves him at the last moment. They exit the ruins and find the outer area engulfed by a fierce thunderstorm. Layla confirms that even this storm is a manifestation of malevolence, and Sori begins to wonder how he's going to stop something of this scale. Meanwhile, Maltran is advising Alicia on how to properly rule a nation. Though she supports Alicia, she wants her to act more firmly. Maltran makes it clear that the Chancellor and Council don't really want the Shepherd. They want Alicia off the throne. After delivering that brutal truth, Maltran leaves with one final piece of advice, telling her to not carry every burden alone. Alicia is left to reflect on everything when she looks outside and sees something terrifying. A monstrous tornado is forming, right where Sori, Micleo, and Layla are, and the Hellion is clearly loving the chaos. Meanwhile, somewhere deep inside an underground prison, there is Velvet Crow, a vengeful woman with her clothes almost torn apart, clearly from surviving dozens, if not hundreds, of intense battles. She is currently in the middle of fighting off a pack of demon wolves and unleashes her crimson supernatural powers to slay them without mercy. After defeating them like a total badass, she absorbs their demon energy, making her grow even stronger than before. But then, the ground beneath her starts to forcibly drain her power as she declares this place a living hell, where both humans and beasts are possessed by demons who feast on innocent lives. Her heart, after being trapped in this nightmare, is filled with so much despair that she is now driven by bloodlust, fighting only to survive, and one day take revenge on the man responsible for her misery, a man named Artorias. A mysterious magic user named Ceres flies down into the prison when Velvet, acting on pure instinct, immediately attacks her. Ceres counters by engulfing Velvet's bandaged arm in flames, forcing her to back off. Ceres then commends her for surviving in a place like this by feeding on demons, but Velvet couldn't care less. She demands to know where that man Artorias is, her words overflowing with hatred. Apparently, Ceres is Artorias' Malak, which translates to angel in Hebrew. But instead of giving her a direct answer, Ceres urges Velvet to escape immediately before the exorcists notice her, explaining that she has already broken many seals to make Velvet's path out of here easier. Velvet doesn't understand at first, but when Ceres summons a ladder from above, she climbs out and finds herself on the upper floor filled with more prison cells. The guards of this place, known as the exorcists, appear to stop her escape, but Ceres instantly kills one of them with ease. Velvet, however, refuses Ceres' help, choosing to fight alone even though she knows the odds of defeating an exorcist as a demon eater are almost non-existent. She takes on 4 guards at once, pushing through them with brute strength, and moves into the next hallway. Ceres tries to lead her toward the escape route, but Velvet chooses the other path instead, knowing the sealed path Ceres prepared is likely swarming with exorcists by now. They enter a room filled with weapons confiscated from demons, and Velvet uses this moment to properly equip herself. Even though she is preparing for escape, her true goal remains unchanged: to find and eliminate Artorias. She notices the sword Stormhowl resting in the corner. It's a remarkable weapon, but Velvet hesitates to use it since it's too large for her to wield efficiently. Ceres then reveals that Velvet has been locked in this prison for 3 years and explains how much the world has changed in that time. She briefs her on the rising number of exorcists who are now forming organized resistance movements against the demons. But Velvet doesn't care about any of that. She demands Artorias' location once again and threatens to hurt Ceres if she doesn't comply. Finally, Ceres gives in and tells her that Artorias is in Logres, the capital city of Midgin. Hearing this, Velvet steps forward with the sword in hand, fully aware that an army of exorcists is waiting for her outside. Ceres stops her again, pleading with her to act rationally and asking if she doesn't want to know the truth about what really happened on that ominous night. Velvet's mind is pulled into a vivid flashback where she sees the loss of her beloved, taken by a glowing dragon. Ceres explains that everything that happened was Artorias' doing. After completing a powerful ritual, he changed the world completely. Since then, many Malaks like Ceres have appeared in the world, and the exorcists have commanded them to help eliminate the demon invasion. This exorcist organization is known as the Abbey, and its leader is none other than Artorias, the very man Velvet wants dead. However, due to how famous and trustworthy the Abbey has become throughout the entire kingdom, Ceres believes that Velvet will be seen as a villain if she tries to harm Artorias without first exposing the truth to the world. According to Ceres, Artorias now stands as both the shield of humankind and the sword that hunts demons. Hearing this makes Velvet feel sick. To her, it's completely unjust that the man responsible for her suffering is now pretending to be humanity's savior, using the power he obtained by sacrificing the one child she held most dear. Ceres reassures her that Artorias is not invincible and that he can still be unalive. But why should Velvet trust anything Ceres says? She is one of the Malaks who serves under the Abbey and works alongside the exorcists. Ceres promises she is on Velvet's side, but she refuses to explain her intentions until they've made it out of this prison alive. Using her magic, she extinguishes all the torches in the area and together with Velvet disappears into the cover of darkness. As they try to sneak through the shadows, they encounter a man named Rangetsu, who immediately captures Velvet in the blink of an eye. This man, who looks like the Temu version of Madara Uchiha, doesn't hesitate, but Velvet starts laughing after realizing he's also a prison breaker like herself. She finds it ironic that someone trying to escape is now attacking her under the assumption that she's an exorcist. Once the misunderstanding clears up, both Velvet and Rangetsu realize they're on the same side and agree to form a temporary alliance to increase their chances of escape. Ceres doesn't want to work alongside Rangetsu, especially because he is a demon, but Rangetsu doesn't mind teaming up with Velvet. After all, he senses the dark and overwhelming energy from her bandaged arm and immediately knows she isn't a regular human. However, Rangetsu refuses to escape just yet, saying he has to find his partner first. As fate would have it, his eyes fall on the blade Velvet is carrying, the very sword known as Stormhowl. He becomes enraged, declaring that Stormhowl is his partner, but Velvet refuses to give it back, boldly claiming that the sword now belongs to her. She mocks him by asking if he can even use this sword properly, or defeat exorcists with it, to which Rangetsu confidently replies that he doesn't even need Stormhowl to take down exorcists. He brags that he is skilled enough to defeat his enemies with dull blades if needed. Since Velvet herself can't wield the sword effectively, she agrees to return it, but only on the condition that he will have to disperse and whittle down the enemy forces as much as possible. She then turns to Ceres and asks whether she has secured a ship for their escape, because the place they're in is a prison island used exclusively to confine demons. Ceres confirms that there are 2 ports on opposite sides of the island, and her ship is located on the far end. Velvet then asks about the chances of exorcists being stationed at the port, and it's not unreasonable to assume that they are. Thinking like an exorcist commander, she says that if she were leading them, she would have already ordered all ships to leave the ports to make sure Velvet couldn't escape. Even so, Velvet is willing to take her chances, fully prepared to brute force her way through any resistance if it means getting to that ship. Rangetsu doesn't seem too worried either, casually stating that he and his partner can handle the exorcists without breaking a sweat. They come up with a plan to release all the demons on the upper floor to cause chaos, hoping it'll distract the exorcists long enough for them to reach the ships. With that, the group begins their mission impossible, the prison escape. Upon reaching the upper floor, where thousands of demons are locked away, Velvet reminds Rangetsu of their agreement. Rangetsu, being a man of his word, reassures her not to worry. Just then, 2 exorcists burst in, and Velvet and Rangetsu quickly incapacitate both of them as a team. Velvet realizes that Rangetsu wasn't just bluffing, he is genuinely strong, as he effortlessly slays the exorcists using nothing but a dull blade. Meanwhile, Ceres uses her magic to unlock the hallway doors, releasing the demons from their cells. As if on instinct, they begin heading toward the next floor. Rangetsu separates from the girls to join the demons, ready to fight the exorcists alongside them, while Velvet and Ceres continue on to the next level. They eventually reach the prison terrace, and it's finally revealed that this island, surrounded by an endless expanse of ocean, is completely isolated. The dark, heavy rain is a result of the malevolence that taints the area. With no visible escape, Ceres suggests they turn back, warning Velvet that she cannot survive the jump. Even if Velvet somehow does survive, her powers as a demon eater require her to absorb demons to heal and attack, something that's impossible with no demons around. Despite the odds, the sound of approaching exorcists forces them to make a quick decision. Ceres uses her magic to lock the terrace door, but even she knows she can't hold them off forever. As panic sets in, they're left with few options. In the midst of the chaos, Velvet remains silent, reflecting on the time Artorias pushed that kid off a great height as a sacrifice. For context, she is referring to the kid for whom she wants to take revenge, who may be her brother or son. Anyway, she compares the height of the terrace to the ground below with the height the kid was thrown into, and decides that she can make the jump, perhaps because she also jumped when the kid was thrown in. With her stern resolve, she leaps, using her demon eater powers to grab onto the mountainside to slow her fall. But gravity still takes its toll. When she hits the ground, she takes damage, and as she gets up, she realizes that her right shoulder likely dislocated, but she refuses to stop. She forces herself to move forward. Ceres, astonished by Velvet's determination, teleports down to join her. Meanwhile, Velvet grits her teeth and slams her arm against the wall to relocate her shoulder. Ceres quickly steps in, healing Velvet's remaining injuries, and expresses how much she is impressed by her strength. She asks if Velvet has formed a pact with someone to gain such power, but Velvet is unaware of any such pact. Ceres explains that she's referring to a rituat that places a limitation on a person's words, granting them a special power. The more severe the limitation, the stronger the power becomes. Hearing this, Velvet thinks of the contract more as a curse than a blessing, so she doesn't want to discuss it any further, and begins walking ahead. Suddenly, they hear a clunking sound coming from the sea. Using her perception skills, Ceres zooms in and sees an exorcist ship heading toward the island. This is bad news, and Ceres wonders to herself, why is Artorias going to such lengths to stop Velvet? Regardless, Ceres informs Velvet that the ship approaching is filled with Praetor-class exorcists, who are far more powerful than the exorcists at the prison. Despite knowing this, Velvet still wants to fight. Her unwavering determination for revenge leads Ceres to ask herself whether Velvet's emotions will bring hope to the world or spread more malevolence. Only time will tell. Knowing that their dangerous prison break isn't going to go as easily as they think, they run to the bank of the river to at least see the exorcist that was sent to fight them. When you see your enemy, it's easier to know how to attack them. While standing on the mountain, Ceres looks down and sees Oscar. As one of Artorias' Malachim, she knows who Oscar is and his rank in the classes of exorcist. What she can't believe is that Artorias would send someone as powerful as Oscar to fight that battle. She jumps down and confronts Oscar, wondering why a Praetor-class exorcist would come to the ends of the world to fight such a battle.
What?
Oscar doesn't flinch at her rhetorical question. What exactly is his role as an exorcist, if not to fight for his lord and master? He reveals that the matter she is taking lightly is actually very important to Artorias. Velvet jumps into the conversation. Without asking for an explanation, she tells Oscar that she needs his boat to return to the city and kill Artorias. He is the reason she had stayed alive all these years, eating demons in that prison. But she's done with that now. At first, Oscar doesn't take her seriously. He says no matter how strong a demon eater she is, she's still a lady, and it won't take him much to kill her off. Whether it's his statement that annoys Velvet or her pre-existing anger, I can't say. But what I know is, she immediately picks up a stone and knocks one of his soldiers into the river. Knowing that she's no joke, Oscar drops the chatter and jumps into action. He jumps to fight, but Velvet isn't soft meat either. She brings out a sword from her feet, hits him with it, and for a while, it's truly a battle of the strong. As all this continues, Ceres stands behind and watches them. Velvet releases her hand to fight Oscar, but he also uses his heavenly light against her, throwing her into the river. Wondering if she's dead, he watches, but she jumps right out of the water. He reveals he doesn't want to kill her. He's here with just one intention, to return her to the prison where she'll continue eating demons. To Oscar, the world has law and order. Every human has their responsibility. Velvet's responsibility, in his opinion, is to remain in prison and eat demons. A world created by Artorias, laws based on death and bloodshed. That's not the kind of world Velvet wants. She can't stop thinking about how Artorias killed her brother as part of building that damned world. That, and other reasons, are why she will never let it go. She insists the only reason she's alive is to kill Artorias, and she doesn't care what anyone thinks. She will make sure he is dead. Not just dead, but dead by her own hands, just as he killed her brother. Their heated conversation gets a visitor none of them expected. This visitor flies high in the sky, flames glowing. It's a dragon. Oscar has never seen a dragon before. He didn't even know one existed in their world until that moment. But what he knows is that the dragon must be defeated. As they watch, the dragon flies down and wipes out all the soldiers Oscar brought. It even partly destroys the ship. Oscar believes it is a demon, but Ceres doesn't think so. Oscar insists that kind of demon is what humans will turn into when their malevolence crosses the skies. The only reason Artorias created this world, he says, is to avoid things like that. He asks Ceres again if she still believes in Artorias' world, but a world created by someone who just wants to rule isn't the world Ceres wants. She wants to carve her own path in life, to decide what is right and wrong. Oscar goes to fight the dragon. Meanwhile, a young lady, one of the prisoners released during the break, emerges. She doesn't care about the fight, she's just mad that the noise disturbed her sleep. She tries to talk to Velvet, but her complaints don't align with Velvet's worries. Velvet is worried the ship will be destroyed, and if that happens, she won't have a way to leave the mountain and kill Artorias. She runs to catch the ship, but the dragon overpowers Oscar and injures him. It spots her running and targets her. Despite her efforts to resist, she starts bleeding. She can't die now. If she does, Artorias wins. But she also doesn't know how to fight this dragon. Before she can act, Ceres steps in front of the dragon. She tells Velvet she believes in her mission and won't let her die before she gets her revenge. She uses the Arte, a deadly spell that will kill her, but the dragon stays stubborn. Just then, the female prisoner joins the fight. If the dragon destroys the ship, she can't return to the city either. Rokaru, the demon they also met in the prison, decides to join in as well. The female prisoner introduces herself as Magalu, and together with Rokaru, they join the battle. It's worth noting that they're even weaker than Ceres and Velvet, not to talk of Oscar, so their chance of winning is basically zero. On the other hand, after Ceres uses the Arte, she and Velvet fall into a ditch. When Velvet wakes up, she finds Ceres bleeding beside her. She can't understand the sacrifice. Who lays their life down for a demon eater? Quite impossible. With her last breath, Ceres speaks. Her words, "Eat me, so you can be strong." It all seems strange to Velvet. "Why die for me?" she asks. Ceres reminds her that a covenant binds her to this life. So if she isn't eaten before death, her sacrifice is in vain. Before deciding, Velvet asks what her inspiration is. Ceres reveals that the same fire burning in Velvet burns in her. She also wants revenge on Artorias because of Laffy, Velvet's brother. She shows Laffy's comb, and Velvet finally understands. Velvet eats her without apology, and a wave of power engulfs her. After swallowing that power, she looks to the sky, and a ring descends. She wears it, and that begins a new chapter for her. Outside, Magalu tries to fight the dragon, but fails. With just one hit, she crashes to the ground. She believes she may die. Well, she's lucky, because the real fighter is coming. Velvet climbs out from the ditch, fire blazing from her hand. At this point, she's competing with the dragon blow for blow. She unleashes her flames and jumps onto the dragon to finish it. While she fights, Oscar sees the Arte on her hand and knows immediately she has eaten Ceres. He calls her an evil demon eater and declares that someone like her must not return to Artorias' world. If she does, she'll kill for personal gain. He throws a holy sword at her. But guess what? She doesn't die. She leaves Oscar with one statement. She is Velvet Crow, the greatest demon eater that has ever existed. From now on, she won't only eat demons, she'll eat humans, eat exorcists, and eat Artorias himself. With Velvet's newfound power, she quickly defeats the dragon. She boards the ship with Magalu and Rokaru, and they head toward the city, each with their own goals. As they travel, Rokaru asks the girls where they're going. Magalu doesn't have a destination in mind. Velvet sees a bird flying and remembers her brother again. She recalls the day they watched a bird together. She asked him why birds fly, and he said, "Because if they don't fly, they can't feed." That day, she smiled at him, agreeing. She didn't know she was going to lose him soon. Their journey continues, and she remembers the day that changed everything, the day they met Artorias. Right in front of her, Artorias killed her brother. No remorse. While she cried, face red with pain, he looked at her with a calm face and declared that his mission was to bring law and order to the world. The path he was paving was the only path to achieve that. At this point, I'd be a clown not to understand Velvet. It's one thing to kill someone's brother. It's another to show no remorse, then send her to prison for years. Hatred boils again. Velvet grips her mission tighter. She tells Rokaru to take the ship to the Midgard region. She's going to Logris, the capital city, with one mission: to kill Artorias. Magalu smiles at her fire. She doesn't know how the battle will end. But one thing is certain: the unpredictability of this fight will make it a wild, epic ride. I share Magalu's opinion, and I'm excited to see what happens. What about you? Team Velvet or Team Artorias? The drama at the lakeside city hasn't ended. If anything, it's just beginning. A new chapter unfolds as a great tornado strikes the city. While Sori, Mikleo, and Layla travel around the ruins, they spot a massive whirlwind tearing through the skyline. They're confused, unsure of what exactly is happening, but one thing is clear: if the tornado isn't stopped, it could obliterate the entire city. To make matters worse, As Sori stares into the heart of the tornado, he sees something flying within it. It turns out they have an unexpected visitor, and not just any visitor, it's a dragon. At the palace, Master Maltran notices that things are quickly going from strange to downright supernatural. She calls Alicia's attention to the phenomenon, and just as she does, the dragon begins heading straight for the palace. It looks like it's targeting Alicia directly. Master Maltran expects Alicia to protect herself, but Alicia isn't worried about her own life. She's worried about her people. Without hesitation, she makes a bold announcement. The guards should protect the city, and everyone seeking safety should take refuge in the castle. The same castle that isn't even safe for her. Joke's on her. One thing I can't deny in her is the sincere love she has for her people. I believe every leader should have the same. Sori, terrified for Alicia's safety, sees the dragon charging in her direction and immediately races toward the castle. Just as he gets closer, Alicia remembers that he exists, classic drama timing, and becomes worried about him too. He runs toward the dragon, and Alicia screams for him not to fight it. If the shepherd dies, who will save the people? Micleo also tries to stop Sori, urging him to let it go. But Sori can't help wondering, why is the city always under attack? What did they do to deserve this? Who or what did they offend? Then, just as suddenly as it came, the dragon retreats on its own. The skies begin to clear. Sori asks Layla if they're safe now. For the moment, yes. He wonders aloud if the dragon was a product of human malevolence. And Layla agrees. This seems to be the only explanation. However, she reveals that the arrival of a dragon is a very bad omen. It means something evil is about to happen, and if they are not careful, the city will go down for it. As the dust settles, Alicia approaches Sori to thank him for saving her city. But Sori isn't interested in praise. He still can't understand what's going on. Micleo draws his attention to the crowd forming around him. The villagers are murmuring, staring at him, and whispering if he really is the shepherd. They express their deep gratitude for saving them. He tries to explain that he didn't really do much, that the dragon left on its own, but they don't believe that. Not one bit. I wouldn't believe too. They all watch the dragon retreat at his arrival. Just then, Counselor Bartlow appears, thanking Sori for his help. Again, Sori insists he didn't actually do anything, but Bartlow brushes that aside and invites Sori to join them for dinner. Alicia knows these politicians all too well. Bartlow and the other counselors want to cozy up to Sori, maybe even manipulate him. So she tries to stop Bartlow from dragging Sori into political games. But Sori, unaware of any hidden motives, accepts the invitation. To be safe, he asks Alicia to accompany him, and she agrees. They all board a cart headed to Bartlow's estate. Along the way, Sori notices the widespread destruction, the ruins, the debris, the pain etched into every corner of the city. He asks the cart to stop and steps out, helplessly surveying the damage. He feels a deep sadness that there's so little he can do. Alicia admits that her city is almost completely consumed by malevolence, but she promises to keep fighting for its survival. As they're already running late, they resume the journey and eventually arrive at Bartlow's home. At the entrance, the guards welcome Sori but stop Alicia. The king has summoned her, they say, and she must go. She tries to protest, insisting she should stay with Sori, but they remind her that the king's orders are final. She has no choice but to leave. This raises red flags for Micleo. Why don't they want Alicia near Sori? Could they be planning something? There is really something wrong in this city. Inside, Bartlow meets with Sori and begins casually probing. He asks about Alicia and what kind of relationship Sori shares with her. Sori replies that they are friends. Bartlow smirks and asks if Sori would like to be his friend too. Sori doesn't even know how to respond to that. Plus, he doesn't even think he wants to befriend a politician. Bartlow offers Sori some wine, but Micleo, ever the cautious guardian, steps in to check the drink first. After he first tastes, he admits the wine tastes good. After ensuring it's safe, Sori takes a sip. Bartlow then begins to complain. He talks about the city's abundance of natural resources and how the current crisis has made it hard for people to farm. He asks Sori what he plans to do. Sori explains that dragons are a bad omen. The appearance of a dragon means something is gravely wrong. So, his plan is simple. Chase the dragon. Maybe if he defeats it, he'll uncover the root cause of the disaster. Bartlow is satisfied with that answer, not because he cares about the people, but because Sori doesn't seem to be a threat to his own political ambitions. I don't understand why he plans to cause a war in a city that is already looming in destruction. Why kill a city that is already dying? Regardless, he lets Sori go. That evening, Sori and Alicia spend time helping in the ruins, doing whatever they can for the citizens. As night falls, Alicia reveals that she's been commanded to travel to Marlin. She suspects Bartlow is behind it, but she doesn't care. She'll do anything to help her people. So traveling to Marlin is the least of her worries. Meanwhile, Bartlow is speaking with one of his guards. The guard reveals they had originally planned to assassinate Sori, but Bartlow now thinks it's unnecessary. Sori isn't interfering with their agenda. That night, Micleo watches over a sleeping Sori. He's filled with concern. His best friend is now a legendary savior, risking his life to save humanity, while Micleo feels lost, like he's just trailing behind. He voices these concerns to Layla. She asks if he wants to return home, but he says no. He can't leave Sori alone in this dark world. We all need a Micleo in our lives. Layla, seeing how deeply Micleo cares, reveals a way he can truly help Sori. Without hesitation, Micleo sets out on a journey. The next morning, when Sori wakes up and realizes Micleo is gone, he panics. He worries that Micleo might run into Hellions and be in danger. He even spills hot tea on himself in his rush to leave, but he pauses. If he chases after Micleo, it means he doesn't trust in his friend's strength, so instead, he places his faith in Micleo and focuses on helping the city. Will these two best friends reunite again? I'm really rooting for them. It turns out Layla had told Micleo about the Galahad ruins. There, an ancient artifact lies hidden. If Micleo can retrieve it, he'll be able to support Sori in his mission. So begins Micleo's lonely journey, a quest born out of love, loyalty, and friendship. Before Alicia departs for Marlene, Sori comes to say goodbye. He gives her the sword he found in the ruins, apologizing for not giving it to her earlier. She's grateful and asks if he'll escort her as a guard on her journey. He agrees. As they travel, she reveals that no one in their world has ever seen a dragon. Its appearance is a dire sign that something is terribly wrong. Suddenly, Sori sees a snake-like creature slithering near them. He tenses up, but Alicia assures him the creature is harmless. They stop to rest for the night. Meanwhile, that same snake-like creature appears near Micleo. He panics. At first, he wonders what the creature is, and when he looks better, he realizes that it is a Hellion. He starts running and falls down a mountain, tired and exhausted. What we do for friends. Back at the lodge, Alicia offers Sori food and gives Layla a drink. Sori connects with Layla spiritually to chat, but their conversation is cut short by a noise outside. They rush out and see the creature attacking the guards. Turns out, it's been corrupted by malevolence. It's now a Hellion. Sori fights the Hellion and defeats it. The people stare at him in awe, once again amazed by their shepherd. The next day, the journey continues. Alicia tells Sori more about Marlene, the second largest city by the lakeside. Once known for its prosperity, and the city had so much natural resources, but now the city has been ravaged by plague. She's bringing doctors, but saving the people will require a miracle. She then asks Sori more about his life. He explains that he's lived in Elysia since childhood. He was caught in a fire as a young boy, and Master Zenris saved him. Since then, he's always been able to see and hear Seraphim. He shares his vision to build a world where humans and Seraphim can live together again, like in the old legends they read. In that book, humans and Seraphim coexisted peacefully. The Seraphim controlled the elements, but humans, being humans, began to take advantage. Eventually, the Seraphim faded from relevance. Alicia wonders what could have gone wrong. What could humans have done that had sent the Seraphim away from them? Indeed, humans are always the cause of their own destruction. The same way she knows what they are going through at the moment is also caused by human evil. Alicia longs for that world again, a world where she can see and speak to Seraphim. She asks Sori to teach her how to connect with them. Maybe this will make them grow closer than they were before. She also notes that even though Sori is human, he never lived with humans, and yet he was never lonely. He really is the perfect shepherd. Sori reflects on that. It's true. He always had someone looking out for him. All the Seraphim cared for him despite that he wasn't human. And Micleo was really a soul brother to him. He grew together with him, and they shared great love. Eventually, they reach their departure point. Alicia describes the route to the ruins, and says her goodbyes. Elsewhere, Mikleo reaches the Galahad ruins. As he walks in, he smiles, remembering how he and Sori used to race to discover ruins first. Since he is the first person to find this ruin, he tells himself that he had won his best friend this time around. Despite what he has gone through in that journey, he still has his friend in mind. On the other side of the world, Sori also arrives at his own ruins and laughs, saying, "Looks like I beat Mikleo this time." They sit alone in different places, but thinking of the same memories. The memories where they were both young and checking all the ruins together. In their memory, they are sitting together in front of a ruin. Two best friends, two explorers, one unbreakable bond. Indeed, relationship between humans and seraphim is possible, and they are proving this to the whole world. The journey continues with just one goal in mind: defeat the malevolence in the world and restore the world to a livable place. Mikleo, in his own ruin, uses his water element to dive into the water and find a way for himself. His mission is to find an ancient artifact with the hopes that he will merge with it and become powerful enough to help his friend. Meanwhile, Sori and Layla journey deeper into the ruins. Suddenly, Sori begins to experience intense heartache. It can mean only one thing: the malevolence in this area is so overwhelming that his body can barely tolerate it. He knows he'll survive, but at what cost? As they walk through the ruins to find the cause of this pain, a loud sound echoes behind them. Is this another threat? Sori wonders. Why can't things go smoothly in this world? These thoughts surely cross his mind, but he is jolted back to reality when an umbrella falls toward him. He looks at it, and then another loud noise sounds, this time accompanied by a visitor. But don't be scared. This visitor isn't a dragon, it's a seraphim. The seraphim lands in Sori's hands, and he's so shocked he can't even drop her. When Layla sees the seraphim, she recognizes her as Edna. Edna, annoyed, tells Sori to drop her, but he is too lost in the moment to react. Before they can continue their reunion, she warns Sori that he should drop her before he dies. Her warning is cut short as a Hellion throws rocks at them. Sori immediately drops Edna and prepares to fight. Fortunately, another seraphim in the area creates rocks from the ground to temporarily incapacitate the Hellion, but that won't be enough to defeat it completely. Edna jumps from Sori's hands, grabs her umbrella, and complains that she only came out because she heard noise. She didn't plan on fighting a Hellion. While Sori is relieved that the Hellion is temporarily subdued, she reminds him that the fight isn't over. The Hellion re-emerges from underground, eager to fight again. Sori draws his shiny sword and tells Layla to cover him. As he fights, Edna watches him and admits that he is indeed the shepherd. He has the strength and he can see Seraphim, so there is no reason to doubt his ability. He strikes the Hellion repeatedly, but his attacks don't even cause a scratch. Returning to Layla, he asks why his sword isn't working. After all, if he's the shepherd, shouldn't his sword be more effective? Layla assures him that the problem isn't with his sword. The malevolence that created the Hellion is so powerful that it will take time to defeat. The Seraphim on the mountain shoots at the Hellion with a special gun, and the Hellion is finally defeated. Sori looks at Layla, wondering if the fight is truly over, and Layla confirms that it is. As Sori attempts to rest, the Seraphim from the mountain descends, not to offer a compliment, but to call Sori embarrassing. Ouch, that's harsh. The poor guy is just trying to come to terms with his newfound power, and a compliment would have been nice. Layla and Edna introduce the Seraphim as Zavade. Zavade calls Sori a coward and questions if Sori is really the shepherd. When they confirm it, Sori asks how Zavade killed the Hellion, to which he replies that he used a special gun capable of killing any Hellion. Sori is not pleased with this. He believes the Hellion should have been saved with his sword rather than being killed. Zavade laughs, saying that sometimes the only way to save someone is through death, as death itself is a form of salvation. This statement only makes Sori angrier, but what can he do against someone much stronger than him? He just watched as Zaved do his thing. Edna is also uncomfortable with Zaved's arrival on her mountain, so she turns to Zaved, asking why he's here. She insists she told him not to return. Zaved, however, insists he will continue coming until he kills the person he's come for, and there's nothing Edna can do to stop him. Suddenly, Sori feels a powerful rush of malevolence, so intense that the entire atmosphere shakes. He realizes that the place they're standing on is a domain. Suddenly, a dragon appears. The dragon is so powerful that it shakes the entire area. Edna immediately identifies the dragon as her brother. Sori realizes that the dragon, named Aizen, is actually Edna's brother, and that he has been corrupted by malevolence. Zavide has made it his mission to kill Aizen. Sori cannot fathom that a seraph would be killed like a Hellion. He believes there's still good in everyone and thinks Aizen can be saved. He rushes toward the dragon, but Zavade calls him back. Refusing to retreat, Sori is shoved away from the dragon's feet by Zavade. They explain that once a seraph becomes a dragon, there's no turning back. Edna admits that she's tried everything to save her brother, but there's no way to purify him. Still, she doesn't want him to die at Zavade's hands, so she runs toward him. Zavade pulls her back, reminding her that a dragon doesn't care about relationships. He takes his gun and shoots Aizen in the throat, then orders Layla to take Edna and the others away for their safety. Meanwhile, Mikleo is on his mission to be useful to his best friend. He reaches the ruins and finds the arrow that Layla mentioned, but he's unable to hold it. Suddenly, 3 Hellions crawl toward him. He tries to use his sword to defeat them, but it's impossible. He realizes he needs purification energy to kill them, but he lacks the power. He can't afford to disappoint his friend at this stage, so he encourages himself to keep going. Just then, the arrow glows with power, and Mikleo is able to carry it and purify the Hellions. What a display of true friendship. Back at the mountain, Aizen finishes destroying everything he wants to destroy and retreats. After his departure, Sori tries to reassure Edna that it's safe now, but Edna reveals that she wasn't scared of her brother killing her. Instead, she points out that Sori is still holding her hand. When he awkwardly pulls his hand away, she asks why he came to the mountain. He admits he was following the legend of dragons, believing dragons represent evil. She looks at him angrily, asking if he came to kill her brother to claim the title of Dragon Slayer. He vehemently denies it, explaining that a dragon had come to Lady Lake, and they were investigating dragons, which is why they came. Edna insists that her brother wasn't the dragon in Lady Lake, and if they truly wanted to learn about dragons, they should have seen him in action. She tells Sori to leave. Sori, now in his savior attire, insists that there must be a way to return Aizen to his seraph form. Edna looks at him scornfully, asking Layla if Sori is a fool, as he's acting like one. Layla smiles, responding that he's just innocent. Edna reveals she's done everything she can to save her brother, but there's no evidence that a dragon can be purified. She admits that Zavid is right. She has to kill Aizen. Still, it's a difficult decision for her. Sori can't deny that Edna still loves her brother, so he insists that something can be done. He asks how Aizen became a dragon, and Edna explains that she doesn't know. Aizen was a fool who loved humans. One day, he left as a seraph and later returned as a dragon. She tried everything to save him, but nothing worked. Sori tells her that in the short time he's been on this journey, he's seen things that were once thought impossible. He believes there could be a way to purify a dragon, even if they haven't discovered it yet. They hear noise nearby and run toward it, discovering that Zavade is still trying to kill Aizen. Zavide tells them that the Aizen they're seeing now is no longer the one they knew. Despite their past friendship, Zavide is angry that Aizen no longer recognizes him. He doesn't remember their shared meals, the battles they fought together, and now he is pure evil. As a result, Zavade believes Aizen must die. Edna calls out to her brother, trying to bring him back to his senses, while Sori, in his self-righteousness, tells Layla he will purify Aizen. He begs Layla to cover him as he prepares to fight. Layla merges with him, and Sori enters his spirit form, determined to save Aizen. He charges forward with his first weapon, but he can't land a single hit. Zavid, who has already been injured by Aizen, stands by and watches. As the battle continues, Edna's memories of her brother flood her mind. How much he cared for her, the necklace he gave her, and even the teddy on her umbrella. Sori refuses to stop the fight, even as Aizen continues to strike him. He presses on, and at one point, Layla tells him there's no hope, but he begs her to give him more time. Edna tries to control her brother, calling his name, but he responds by attacking her. As he's about to release fire on her, he suddenly regains some of his memories. He swallows the fire and retreats, flying away. Zavid realizes that despite Aizen being a dragon, he still has his human elements. This means he can be brought back. Sori approaches Zavid to learn more about Aizen. Zavid reveals that while he has never seen a dragon purified in all his journeys, he'll let Sori try. He leaves Edna with a final word, telling her to call him when she's ready to kill her brother, because he made a promise to Aizen that if he ever turned into a Hellion, Zavid would kill him. So Zavid isn't doing anything wrong, he is just keeping a promise made to an old friend. I really hope Aizen can eventually return to divinity. After Zavid leaves, Edna approaches. She's glad that at least one idiot has stopped bothering her. She thanks Sori for trying and asks Layla for a sublord contract. Sori doesn't understand what this means, so they explain that a sublord contract will allow Edna to assist him as his seraph. Since he's determined to save her brother, she will help him fight alongside him. Sori now has another powerful ally by his side, making his role as the shepherd just a bit easier. We can only hope he succeeds in this monumental task and that Aizen might still be purified. Fingers crossed. The mission continues. 3 different teams of individuals, with one major goal: getting rid of the malevolence in the world and making it a better place for others to live. A goal that sets them all apart, with one aim of getting back together. These 3 individuals continue in their duty of making the world a better place. For Alicia, who is on her way to Midgard, she is faced with a great storm. The storm destroys the bridge that leads to her boat, and there is certainly no way she can cross it. Even if she successfully crosses it, the probability that they will get to their boat is low. Master Maltran, who understands her love for her people, can't help but give her bad advice. She tells her she doesn't think there is a way they can get through, and that they should go back. However, Alicia has medicine for the people at Midgard. If she doesn't get the medicine across to them, there is a great probability that they will all die. She doesn't want to know for an answer, so she runs to her lodge to get the map. There has to be a way around this river, she says to herself. Maybe it is her great hope that rescues her, or it is just fate. What I know is that she finds a way. She takes her team across this route, hoping to get to Midgard. The second team is now a team of 3 and no longer 2. Since Edna has decided to be Sori's sublord, she has to travel with him. Layla asks her again if she is sure of the decision she has made, and she says yes. As long as Sori has promised to save her brother, she will also help Sori in his battle. I guess one good turn certainly deserves another. The last team is a one-man team, this time with just McLeo and his arrow. He looks across the river and tells himself that all he has to do now is reunite with his best friend. As the series continues, Edna follows Sori and Layla, and they stop on their journey to rest. Edna can't stop thinking about why Sori wants to visit Rollins. She asks him, and he reveals that, according to the book in his hand, Rollins is like a place for dragons, where dragons are worshipped. She concludes that he is just going to waste his time, because what happens if he gets there and dragons do not live there? He says he has just gotten his position. He doesn't know how to use that position, and if he gets there and finds out that dragons aren't there, he will take it as a part of his journey and learn from it. I like his positive mindset. What a shepherd. She accepts that he could be right. This makes Layla ask him what he thinks is the meaning of purification. For someone that insists he will purify every Hellion, he doesn't even know what purification means. I wonder if Edna is now regretting her decision to follow him. They explain to him that as he journeys, he will meet several Hellions. He will try to purify them one after the other, and he will be confronted by several malevolence. If he is not careful, he may get consumed by the malevolence in these Hellions. Before they can continue that journey, he needs to answer that question. Since he has no answer, Layla asks him to imagine it. She throws magic at the fire in front of them, and the fire turns into a hellion. They ask him to purify it, and he brings out his sword to fight. He tries to fight the fire, but can't. She removes the magic and tells him he has a long way to go. This mission, no matter how much he likes it, can't succeed if he doesn't grow. But will he grow eventually? She considers that he has never purified a hellion before. Although his skills as a shepherd are quite profound, they are born out of nothing but love for the people. He doesn't have the strength nor the ability. She thinks about the risks and concludes that he can only succeed with the help of his best friend. So she hopes that Mikleo returns to them as soon as possible. On the other hand, Mikleo sits under a tree thinking about his next course of action. Suddenly, he sees a Norman seraph running away and screaming. He looks farther and sees that a hellion is attacking the seraph. He proceeds to fight the hellion with his arrow, but two of his arrows can't even pierce the hellion. The seraph tells him that he can't fight alone. He releases his power to Mikleo, and together they defeat the hellion. The seraph goes to drink water, after which he has a conversation with Mikleo. He is shocked that Mikleo, despite being young, knows about Norman seraphs. Mikleo tells him how much he knows and how much his father has taught him, which gets the seraph excited. He reveals that his name is Atak, and although Norman seraphs are weaker than other seraphs, they have the ability to boost the powers of other seraphs. Mikleo advises Atak to leave that part of the mountain because of the risk, but Atak has nowhere else to call home. He asks Mikleo about his destination, and Mikleo shows him the cloudy sky. He says he wants to go there and see what is happening to the sky. Plus, he also needs to find a friend there. Since Atak has no destination at the moment, he decides to follow Mikleo. He would be very useful to Mikleo to boost his powers, so Mikleo accepts his new companion, and they start their trip. At least, he is no longer alone. The journey continues for Sori. He finds Alicia's soldiers on his way and speaks to them. They inform him about the bridge and the fact that Alicia asked for his help. He immediately begins his journey to meet her by the bridge. Meanwhile, Alicia's journey is cut short. She sees that her horses are no longer running, and when she looks further, she sees the bridge she intended to drive through has been broken down. What she knows is that the drugs have to reach their destination even if she doesn't survive. She has divided her crew into two. Master Maltran and another part of the crew are trying to cross the river. They load the medicine in the river, and she asks some of her soldiers to go. However, she notices that the cloud has gotten darker. Unfortunately, a hellion emerges from the sky and destroys the boat. She also falls down. As Sori rides to that same place, Layla calls his attention to the hellion. He gets there and meets Maltran. Immediately, Layla sees the hellion. She recognizes it as Ouroboros, a powerful hellion who is certainly the cause of that storm. She immediately goes to safeguard the people there, but she asks Sori to deal with the monster. Sori calls for Edna's help, and Edna decides to show her power as a sub-lord. She merges with him to make a powerful weapon, and he goes to fight. He successfully lands 2 blows on the hellion, but before he finishes, they get a visitor. Yes, the visitor is another hellion. He recognizes it as a dragon, but they correct him that it is a drake. A drake has not developed as much as a dragon, and it can still be purified. He immediately runs to purify it. At least, he will use that to learn how to purify a dragon. But the drake runs away, and he falls down. There is no way he can purify something he can't reach, so he gives up. Maltran comes to appreciate him for saving them. He asks about Alicia and finds out that Alicia has taken another route to the city. He looks toward the direction the drake has gone and realizes that it is the same place Alicia is. Fearfully, he begs Edna to complete the bridge so he can travel there. But Edna calls him foolish. He has finished using all her energy. So where does he expect her to find strength to complete the bridge? He persuades her, and she gives in. She creates rocks from the water as a route, and they walk through it. On the other hand, Mikleo and Atak catch up together. Atak reveals he knows Layla, and they had a close relationship before. As they continue their journey, they get to the bridge. They hear Maltran talking about the stone and how the shepherd had made the stone. This makes Mikleo a little excited. At least his weak little friend is now strong enough to help the people. Atak, who doesn't even know the shepherd, is also excited to meet him, so they climb on the stones in hopes of getting to Midgan City as soon as possible and reuniting with the other team. Their full team will have so much potential. I am excited already. Upon arriving at Midgan City, Sori sees the disaster in the city. It is really bad. The second largest city has become nothing but ruins. Their waters aren't drinkable, and it only causes illness for them. Sori gets closer to the water and sees the particles in it. He can't help but imagine that it is the work of the drake he saw earlier. Inside the clinic, Alicia does her best to take care of the patients. She cleans their bodies and encourages them that they will be well soon and that they don't have to be worried. A princess in all her entirety. However, she notices that nothing she is doing is making the people feel better. Even her drugs aren't working. She walks away disappointed, but Sori calls her name. She turns to see him and feels a little better. She appreciates him for coming as soon as he could. Edna comments about her, and to their shock, she can hear the seraphs just by being around Sori. They realize that Sori's sensibility has improved. At least, that is a good thing. They are so glad that she is fine. At least, that makes them feel better. Unfortunately, she throws the bowl in her hand down and breaks down. She complains that she is tired. Nothing she is doing is working, and it seems like everything is wrong. Sori looks at the water that has fallen from her hand and sees the curse in it. He realizes that even the water they are using to treat the sick is cursed, which is why they can't recover. He has to tackle the Hellion from the root. He hears the sound of the drake and goes outside. He shows Alicia the direction the drake is coming from, and she tells him a tree was there. He immediately figures the drake is trying to build a domain. He has to defeat it before it successfully does that. He runs to fight, asking Edna if she can seal the drake in a place so it doesn't run away again. Edna does her best, and he goes to fight, but the drake flies off again. Edna realizes that the drake has gotten stronger than earlier and is on the verge of becoming a dragon. Micleo continues his journey closer to that place, and he feels severe heartache because of the malevolence around. He suddenly sees a Hellion and goes to fight. A Tak merges with him, and together they destroy the first one. However, they realize there are about 10 other Hellions in front of them. They don't know what to do. Meanwhile, Sori continues to fight the drake. Since he is using a sword, he can't fly as high as the sky to fight. This makes Layla regret that Micleo isn't with them. She reveals that Micleo had gone to get an arrow, and if Micleo was with them, they could have used the arrow. Sori smiles. He tells her he can feel Micleo and knows that Micleo is almost there, so they should hold on and keep fighting. Friendship really wins as Micleo arrives not long after he makes that statement. Immediately, Lila sees Micleo and a Tak. She is excited. She asks Micleo to enter into a sublord contract with her. Right after the contract, she asks Micleo to tell Sori his real name. But why wouldn't his best friend know his name? Sori calls his real name, and they merge together. They use the arrow to pierce into the sky, and the sky clears up. The blue sky returns, and the drake is purified. The two best friends return to the ground. They depart from each other and do their friendship greetings. This has to be my best scene in this series. I am smiling from ear to ear. What a great relationship. I believe the union of Sori, Edna, Micleo, Layla, and a Tak will save the city. With their newfound power, Sori smiles at his friend, telling him that he knew he was going to come, and his friend also responds that he knows Sori can't do anything without him. They are indeed a cut of the same cloth. They bump their fists happily as they smile to themselves. For the first time, Sori has successfully purified a Hellion. Well, it wouldn't have been done without the help of his friend. A part of their problem has now been solved as the sky is now clear, but another part of their problem is the water. If the water doesn't get clearer, it would be impossible for the people to get good water to drink, and this could make them fall sick again. Fortunately, Micleo has the water element, which makes Edna call him the Water Boy. For 3 days, Micleo and Sori go to the water source to purify it. On that day, they proceed to the source while Layla and Edna wait for them outside. Layla cannot but admit that Sori is eventually becoming a good shepherd. She sees his passion for the people and how much he enjoys making them feel good. She also admits that Micleo is a great friend because no matter how much Sori disturbs him, he is always ready to help his friend out. At the underground area, Micleo and Sori hold hands as they call the god of water. They clean the water again, but after they are done, Micleo complains that it may take a long time before the water eventually becomes clean. Sori doesn't care. He knows the only reason he was successful so far is because Micleo is with him, and they just have to keep it up. They all walk away from there and talk. Lila compliments Sori, saying he is doing great and they are proud of him. They also see the recovered villagers waiting for him, and they all call him their shepherd. Edna walks away complaining that she is tired, but Micleo can't even pinpoint what she had done for them. This leads to a little argument between them. Just some petty stuff, nothing serious at all. They all sit at the table along with Rohan, the seraph that was purified. They ask Rohan how he is doing, and he appreciates them for purifying him. He reveals he was meant to be the guidance angel of that place, but he cannot even remember how he got corrupted by malevolence. They all admit that it isn't his fault because of the way humans are. It would be very difficult for a seraph to stay with humans and not corrupted by their malevolence. Atak even talks about how he had seen several smaller towns get completely destroyed by the seraphs that should be protecting them, all because they got corrupted. The relationship between humans and seraphs at this point is barely possible, and they have no choice. When they ask what was the cause of the malevolence in that city, he can't even remember. All he knows is that it was because of a book. Evil grew and became uncontrollable, and he was corrupted by it. Alicia comes to join them. She brings a meal for Sori and asks to sit with them. Sori apologizes to her because he has found it difficult to clear the water completely, as the root of the issue will take a while before it can go away. She admits that she understands him. The issue didn't begin in a day, so she would be a fool to wish everything disappeared in a day. Regardless, what she can't deny is that they had done so much for them, and without the seraphs, their country would have been consumed completely. They continue their conversation regarding the well-being of the city. She is glad that her people are getting better. She is filled with optimism that things will get better for them no matter what. They are trying to build back the country and return it to its normal state, but it will take a while. He asks her if there is any way he can help. That's funny because he looks like someone who needs help too. He looks stressed and tired, exhausted from carrying the burden of others that he barely even remembers his own burden. The seraphs look at him, each with their several comments about him. Edna says he is hardworking, but Micleo refuses to accept that his best friend is better than him, so he says he is hardworking too. Alicia doesn't want to burden him with more issues, but she knows they need help, so she says it regardless. They need someone to help them sort out all the supplies they have gotten. He could lend his hand there. He immediately gets into the business of helping out. When he is done, he looks ahead and sees Alicia. She is just like him, hardworking, compassionate, and has the interest of the people at heart. Despite being a princess, her position isn't important to her. They receive a visit from the merchant that supplies goods. The merchant is Rose. Do you remember her? She is the first lady that Sori met with Micleo when he arrived at Lady Lake, the lady that gave him a pass into the city. Seeing her gets Sori excited. He goes to meet her, and she reminds him that he owed her. He admits his debt, but being a shepherd doesn't mean he has money. In fact, he is broke. He admits his penury, and she decides to let him go. There is really no break in calamity in this series, and no rest, too. Just as the coast seems clear, Maltran comes to Alicia with another bad news. She comes with Schiller, one of Alicia's riders, who is, in fact, the bearer of this bad news. Schiller informs them that Bartlow had waged a war against Roland City. The first troop of that war has left Lady Lake, and the second troop are about to leave. This is the exact reason Bartlow had ensured Alicia left the countryside, because if she was there, she wouldn't have allowed it. As Alicia's first advisor, Maltran can't tell her to do what will destroy her, so Maltran gives her the best advice, which is to let go. You can't fight all the battles in this world, and the best you can do is to pick your battles. Will she accept this advice? You are right. She doesn't accept. She refuses to let go, so she insists she will try to meet the troop and stop. Guess who offers to follow her? Our shepherd. He claims he will go with them. He returns to give a report to Layla, but she refuses to let him go. She tells him he doesn't know anything about human malevolence. He can't counter it, and the best place with the greatest malevolence is the battlefield, so she can't let him go. She reveals that it's not only seraphs that can become hellions after being consumed by malevolence. Even humans can be consumed. As though the universe wants Sori to understand what she means, he suddenly feels there is a great hellion around. He follows where the hellion is. On their way, they inform him that the hellion he is going to confront is a human that was consumed, so they are much stronger. He gets to the door of where the Hellion is and opens it. He sees the creature. Layla tells him if he looks closer, he would see the human. The only reason he could see it as a Hellion is because he is the shepherd. Other humans would see a fellow human like them and would not know he is a demon. He sets out to fight the Hellion, but the Hellion is way stronger and throws him off. They immediately instruct him to stand up because the Hellion cannot be allowed into the city. He runs after the Hellion and catches up with it. He successfully purifies the Hellion, and the spirit leaves, leaving just the human. He is weakened, so he falls down. He can't imagine what he had just experienced. How can humans be this terrible? He wonders. Layla walks up to him and talks to him. She reveals that only a shepherd can take the malevolence in a humanized Hellion, and even they, the Seraphs, can't do anything to it. If just a humanized Hellion can be that horrible, he should wonder how many he will meet at the battle. He feels exhausted. He starts walking on a lone journey, and they all follow him. While he is deep in thought, Alicia keeps making her plan to join and stop the battle. She doesn't have enough manpower where she is, so she asks some of her knights to lend horses. She also tells Schiller to bring meals from the country, and although that was difficult for Schiller, she brings it regardless. What we can't deny is that Alicia is favored to have followers who trust and obey her. Even Maltran, who barely joins battles, gets a spare from the villagers and plans to join this time. They look at a map to find a place nearer to the battlefield, so they can get there before the battle starts. Will they succeed? Well, Sori continues this lone journey with all his seraphs around him. He walks to a graveyard, and they all wonder what he is looking for. The boring journey is not without the chats and jokes between Mikleo and Edna, but Mikleo is pissed at Edna for always calling him a boy. Eventually, Sori stops in front of a grave. He reveals that it is the grave of the person that the Hellionized human had killed, and unless he purifies it, the malevolence from that grave will keep spreading. He successfully purifies it. He reveals that the fight started from a small argument. One of them brought out a knife in the middle of the argument, and the other tried to defend himself. The person who brought the knife was the first to die. However, the person who defended himself also became a Hellion. While he considers all these, Alicia walks to the gate of the city but finds no guard there. She is concerned, and her concerns come into reality when some soldiers jump down to attack her. She isn't in the mood for jokes. She has several things on her mind, and she doesn't even care about losing her own life, so she begs them to let her go. One of the masked gang asks her what she intends to do at the battle. She doesn't have any plan. All she wants to do is ensure that the battle doesn't go on. One comes nearer to her to fight her, but she throws the soldier off. She tells them that she is brave, a brave princess. She isn't a regular princess, so they should count their battles and leave her alone. However, the head of the gang says they can't let her do that. What will happen if one of the soldiers she is taking to the battlefield to prevent the battle gets killed? It will only cause more malevolence, which will destroy the city. Coincidentally, the purified human goes to the grave of his friend to apologize. Sori watches him with the seraph, and they teach him that the idea of malevolence isn't something that sprouts from evil itself, but if your family member dies, no matter how much of a good person you are, you will breed hatred, and that is just the cause. Alicia also admits that her attacker is right. If there is a first person who should die, then it should be her. The attacker takes her knife to fight Alicia, and she puts the knife on her chest to kill herself. The attacker, who is a member of the Scattered Bones, with the responsibility of ensuring that malevolence doesn't spread, realizes that Alicia is right. She can lay down her life for her people, so she allows her to go. However, Alicia calls her back, reminding her that she had attacked her and she had to pay for it, not with her life, but with her loyalty by joining her in the battle. Alicia takes her sword and breaks the attacker's mask, revealing that the attacker is actually Rose. She tells Rose to supply them with the necessary things for the battle as her sign of loyalty. She begs Rose for one thing, which is that if she dies in the battle, then everyone dies. She doesn't want anyone to revenge her death, and no one should die for her. Her death shouldn't be a cause of malevolence. Rose promises her she will ensure that her death doesn't cause malevolence in the society, and she leaves. After seeing what malevolence is in real time and knowing what purification means, the Seraphs ask Sori one question. Do you still want to go to the battlefield? I would expect he would say no, but knowing Sori, that only makes him feel like going. He confesses that as a shepherd, it is his duty, and he will go. Let us just hope he isn't consumed too. Since all their attempts to get him to back down from the battle remain impossible, the only thing they can do is to wish him well and hope he doesn't get consumed by malevolence. Another issue that seems like a problem to them is how they will leave Milgan City. Since the city had just been delivered from plague, it feels unsafe for them to leave like that. Left with no choice, they reach out to Rohan. They tell him their intention and ask him if he could safeguard the city until they return. It really looks like a risk, but they have no choice. Considering that Rohan had once been consumed by malevolence, he also doubts his ability to protect the city, rightly so. However, he doesn't have a choice. Someone has to stay behind and make sure the city is safe. He reassures them that he will stay behind and do his best. Although he cannot be sure that he won't be consumed, he will do his best. You can trust the ever-pessimistic Edna to doubt him. She looks at him sarcastically, wondering if the risk is worth it. He reassures them that he has Atak with him this time, so he will try his best not to get consumed. They put their trust in him, and Alicia comes to call them for the battle. The battle isn't one that you go into without a plan, so they meet first with a perfect plan. The war is set to happen at the border between Highland and Roland City, and the border can only accept about 20,000 people. Knowing Bartlow, that is probably where he will put his men to fight. You can also be sure that the people of Rollins wouldn't stand back and watch their city get destroyed. It is normal for them to fight back. However, this is where Alicia intends to enter the battle. She plans to stay in the middle of the two teams as an intermediary and try to stop the fight. She doesn't have as much army as both Bartlow and Roland City, but she has a diplomatic spirit, so she hopes to put that to good use. Maltrain remains concerned. If the war gets severe and she is unable to quench it before it starts, she may end up fighting her people. Knowing who Bartlow is, he won't back down even if he is losing, so she has to pick her battles. She reassures them that she won't hurt the same people she wishes to protect, so they don't have to worry. They start riding to the battlefield, and Ian, one of her soldiers, who is also Schiller's best friend, joins the crew. It's been a while since she has seen Schiller, and despite knowing they are on an important mission, she tries to catch up on old times. The way she teases Schiller makes Alicia realize they are friends. She tries to tell Alicia how her friendship with Schiller had started and how they even shared the same crush. I love the friendship theme in this series. It is a good story, but Alicia isn't interested. She has so much on her mind, and those aren't her priority. She is right. So they continue their journey. Ian sees the shepherd and recognizes him. She has never seen him before, and that only gets her more excited. She goes to meet him, telling him that he isn't what she had expected. Rumors had gotten around Lady Lake about how he had single-handedly chased away a dragon, so she felt he would be a fearful person. In fact, the rumors she heard were that he killed the dragon with his bare hands, and, in fact, he ate the dragon that same way. He smiles at her. He isn't that kind of person, but he can't change what people say about him, so he has to accept it. She asks to shake his hand, wondering if wonders will happen when their hands meet. He holds her hand, and she is excited. She screams that she wouldn't wash that hand again. Well, the Seraphs watch her excitement over nothing. They wonder if she thought he was some supernatural being. Alicia calls Ian to give her a brief of what is happening in the city. Ian informs them that she had counted the soldiers left in the city, and they are about 20,000. Bartlow is a coward, so he won't send all the armies to the battlefield without leaving some there to protect him, since he isn't going for the battle. That is just what Alicia had predicted, although she predicted that he would leave about 18,000 instead. They keep their fingers crossed, hoping to know how the battle will end. The members of Shattered Bones also follow the crew. Rose's assistant talks to her about their decision to follow the crew, wondering if it is a sincere decision. She admits that it may be stupid to involve themselves in a battle that isn't theirs. But after her encounter with Alicia, she is curious to know what will be the end of that battle. When her assistant asks her what she means, She reveals Alicia is ready to lay her life to stop the fight. The man laughs. Lay her life to stop the fight? But she only has one life. Rose laughs with him, and they both decide Alicia is just silly. While Alicia plans to stop the fight, Bartlow's army remains at the border. They can see the cloud forming, and they are glad that the cloud will prevent the Rowlands from knowing they are near, so they can attack the Rowlands from the rear. A lot is going on, and Alicia can't sleep. I don't blame her too. She decides to take a walk and get water. She walks to the stream and hears Sori call her name. He inquires to know where she was going, and when she says she can't get sleep, he shares the same concern with her, so they decide to take a walk. At the stream, he confesses to her that he really wants to stop the fight. They are nearer to the border, and there are just two possibilities. The first being that the fight hasn't started and they successfully stop it, while the second probability is that the fight has started. While he admits that he likes her and her love for her people, he tells her that if the fight had indeed started, he cannot side with Highland. Neither can he side with Rowlands. As a shepherd, he has to stop the fight no matter which side suffers the most loss. She admits that he is right and tells him to just do what is right for his position. As he walks away from her, Mikleo calls him. To Mikleo, their entire world is moving so fast. Just a few weeks ago, they were running around the ruins at Elysia, and now they are stopping wars. Sori knows he is right. They also think about Zenrus, but they throw the concerns away since they know their Gramps is always fine. Seeing how exhausted Sori has been, Mikleo suggests that after the fight ends, they go see the ruins. At least a shepherd should have fun time too. Sori knows his friend is right, so he accepts, and they do their usual friendship sign before they seal the promise. Meanwhile, Layla and Edna also meet. Layla admits that she knows seeing that war is necessary for Sori, but she hoped he would be more experienced before he encounters such a thing. In fact, she hoped he wouldn't have to witness a war, but humans only know how to start what they can't finish. This makes Edna call humans foolish. At the war zone, there is no right person or wrong person. What only happens is who the smartest person is, and in every case, the smartest person wins. Well, in this case, the Highland were the fools. I wonder why they expected that Rowlands would watch them attack without fighting back. It indeed comes as a shock to General Landon, who had led the Highland army, when he finds out that the Rowlands had attacked his team from the rear even before daybreak. The rear part of the border belongs to Highland. The Rowlands coming from that side to attack means they had also broken the truce between the two countries, and they can now be seen as a threat. Fortunately, in every crew of 100 stupid people, there will always be a smart person. In the Rowlands team, there is indeed a smart person named General Saige. He meets his other generals, telling them they are presently in the wrong. They shouldn't have attacked from the rear, and now they will be seen as villains. The others do not care. What matters to them is that they win the war. After winning the war, every other thing can be settled. Saige doesn't like this, so he retreats from the battle and says his army would not fight. By the time Alicia and her crew get nearer to the battlefield, they see that the war has started, just as Sori had told her the night before. As long as the war has started, he cannot be on Highland's side. He picks his seraphs and leaves so they can find their way to stop the war. Alicia thinks of the next way forward. The only way she can think of is getting Landon to retreat his team and send a truce to the Rowlands. She tells her team to follow her, as she will get to Landon and convince him. If that doesn't work, then she will kidnap him. They proceed on that journey through the rear of the border, unknown to them that the Rowlands are there. The Rowlands army sees them as a threat and shoots arrows at them. Ian gets into action with her arrow and kills a number of them. It wouldn't be easy to pass through that route, so Maltrain advises that Alicia gets to Rowlands while they clear that route. Alicia asks Rose to come with her, since Rose's mission in that battle is to see how Alicia plans to end the war. On the other hand, Sori gets nearer to the battlefield, and the malevolence thickens up. He sees several Hellions being created from every sword of the armies. The hatred, the fear, The anxiety that is emitted from everyone on that battlefield only creates more Hellions. He picks his seraphs and they jump into the battlefield. What will they do? Will they successfully purify everyone? Meanwhile, Alicia gets to the Highland army. She introduces herself, and when Landon finds out she is there, he calls her a fool. She meets with Landon and tells him to retreat his team, but he will do no such thing. He reveals he had gotten the command from Bartlow to capture her and even kill her if she doesn't comply. He asks his armies to arrest her and even injure her if she refuses. She looks at Rose, who reminds her of her promise. However, she begs Rose that it is a friendly. Rose must ensure that she doesn't kill anyone there. While on the battlefield, while humans fight and kill themselves, Sori makes it his duty to purify them all. He keeps purifying until he gets tired. He admits that the malevolence that keeps entering into him is just too much, and there is barely any way for them to continue. However, he encourages himself that that is exactly the reason he was created, so he must do his best. At Landon's quarters, Alicia incapacitates the first set of soldiers that come at her, but ensures she doesn't kill them. Landon tells the others to attack her, and they rush there. Rose reminds them that the young lady they are attacking isn't just anyone. She is their princess. But they barely care about that. She starts fighting too, although she follows Alicia's words and doesn't injure anyone. At the battlefield, Sori turns into the highest level of his power. He uses the arrow to pierce into the sky to stop the Hellions that are clouding the city. The fight in the room continues until Rose realizes it isn't a friendly. The guys in that room will kill them if she doesn't tell them. She tells Alicia she can't continue with the friendly. She attacks one of the soldiers and is about to finish him off, but Alicia uses her sword to stop her. She pauses, wondering what kind of person Alicia is. Suddenly, one of the soldiers stabs Alicia from behind. Will this be the end of our princess? The battle at the rear eventually ends. Sori is exhausted. He faints on the ground and is tired. He stands up and starts running towards the other side. Something tells him it isn't yet over, so he runs there and sees a fight at another side of the border. Meanwhile, in the room, Alicia isn't angry that she is stabbed. She tells them that they don't have to feel bad for stabbing her because it doesn't even hurt at all. She even tells the soldier to clean his sword so his sword doesn't rust. What kind of human is this lady? Suddenly, they feel a sudden wave that knocks all the soldiers down. When she looks closely, she sees a seraph is around them. Upon arriving at the second part of the battlefield, the malevolence that Sori feels is so intense. They do not understand what they are seeing, but they clearly know that the Hellion that is causing that particular malevolence cannot be a weak one. He asks himself, is that the Lord of Calamity? What will be the end of this war? In the room, Alicia keeps bleeding out, but she doesn't care. She is fine if she dies for her people. I think she has a savior mentality because why does she think she can save everyone? Fortunately, the seraph that passed by has helped a little in throwing the armies off balance. But Rose is, in fact, angry that the people didn't even care about the well-being of their princess, and they kept doing the wishes of their counselors. She can no longer follow Alicia's promise that no blood should be shed. She really wants to take revenge. She jumps through all the armies and goes to meet Landon. First, Landon assumes that she is just weak, but within seconds she puts a knife to his neck and threatens to kill him. She commands all his soldiers to drop their weapons, because if they move an inch near her, she wouldn't hesitate to cut off his neck. She doesn't care. They realize she is serious, so they drop their weapons. They send a truce to the battlefield, telling everyone to retreat because the war has ended and they are to go back. They put up the peace flag. It should have been a good one, but there is a person there that is not happy. It is no one else than the Lord of Calamity. His servant is angry because they wanted more malevolence so they could get stronger, and this is just spoiling their plan. Sori remains on the mountain. He keeps looking at what he is seeing, trying to figure out what it is. He looks closer and sees a human Hellion. Naturally, he is meant to see the human version of this Hellion, but he can't see the human. This makes him confirm he is encountering the Lord of Calamity. Layla and Edna look at themselves. He isn't strong enough to encounter the Lord of Calamity, but he doesn't even wait for their advice before he jumps into the battlefield. You can trust his best friend to follow him. Layla takes a while to make her decision before she calls Edna to follow her. Well, they can't leave him to die alone. Sori and Mikleo stand in front of the Lord of Calamity. He looks at them as if they are cockroaches in his presence. Sori jumps at him, telling him he is the shepherd and he is there to purify him, but the Lord of Calamity laughs. When Sori tries to land an attack, the Lord of Calamity holds his sword in his hand and throws him down. Oops, let's hope he doesn't die. Well, he survives. The Lord of Calamity reveals he didn't know that another shepherd had been born, but the shepherd should go about his duty and leave him alone. Sori asks for the help of Layla and Edna, and together they attack the Lord of Calamity again. However, none of their attacks injures him. He throws them away. The Lord of Calamity shows Sori all the Hellions flying around, telling him the malevolence is for their good. Sori becomes so weak that the Seraphs can't even stay inside him again. They come out and tell him that they aren't strong enough to fight that Hellion. To make matters worse, the Lord of Calamity insists he will show him that humans are incapable of being saved. He calls together all the malevolence that had been formed from that battle. He tells them to attack Sori together. Layla and Edna watch, but there is barely anything they can do to help him. The Lord of Calamity tells him that humans do not need a savior. Their hearts are darkened. Their wills are filled with jealousy and anger, and anyone who tries to save them would only be consumed by their hatred. He hopes Sori also sees what it means for humans to hate things and someone. After the battle ends, Rose carries Alicia to meet her crew. She keeps bleeding, and she has even passed out. Maltron holds her bleeding stomach, and they all hope that she can be revived. Rose watches all of these without an atom of emotion in her. She doesn't care. She had earlier warned Alicia that the only way to deal with humans is to go band for band and fight for fight. Thinking you can win with just a kind heart is just a joke. Maltran asks that the doctors be brought to save the princess. Fortunately, Alicia opens her eyes. She doesn't even care about her life. The first thing she asks is if the war has stopped. Immediately they tell her that the war has stopped. She closes her eyes again. Rose realizes she is wrong about Alicia. Indeed, it is possible that someone sacrifices her life for others, and she is that person. She starts thinking of the way she can save Alicia. She assumes that if she gets Sori to her side, she may survive. She takes a horse to find Sori. If only she knew Sori is also fighting his own battles. The seraph that saved Alicia earlier goes to the battlefield. He realizes that none of the soldiers that were attacked earlier died. He walks away without any care, wondering who else he will mess with after Alicia dies. Lord Saige of the Roland's army also comes there and sees that the armies are still alive, including that of Highland. He immediately calls the doctors to treat them. He wonders when the world will stop being evil and where exactly the world is leading to. Meanwhile, Sori is still dealing with the Hellions. The Lord of Calamity's servant looks at him angrily, telling him that if he at least wants to fight their lord, he will win the servants first. The Lord of Calamity leaves the battlefield. He hopes that Sori will win that fight, not because he cares, but because he wants Sori to survive and indeed save humanity, so that he will fight Sori later and kill Sori, thereby causing so much malevolence in the hearts of humans and feeding on this malevolence. After he leaves, Mikleo comes to meet his friend and fight with him. Although Seraphs shouldn't get involved in human Hellions, he can't let his friend fight alone. Layla and Edna also come there. Indeed, they cannot fight Hellions, but they can dispel them with their ability. So Mikleo makes a wall that stops the Hellions from getting closer to them. Then Edna also uses her umbrella to dispel the Hellions. They spend the next minutes of their life fighting Hellions, something they never imagined. Rose, on the other hand, continues her journey to find Sori. She doesn't even know what part of the mountain he is, but she knows she will get through to him. That seraph joins her horse. She asks him what he is looking for and why he is around her. He informs her he is there to help her. Although he doesn't care about their battle, he has an interest in something, so she should keep shut and follow his directions. If she wants to find Sori, she allows him, and he describes the way. As they get closer to where Sori is, the seraph also feels the weight of malevolence in that place. He admits that the malevolence in that place alone is so thick that it feels as if all the malevolence in the world had reunited there. They all wonder what will be the end of humanity if things continue like that. Before they get to Sori, Sori had finished fighting the Hellions. He is tired and exhausted. So when he hears Rose shout his name, he gets thrown off balance. A Hellion tries to attack him, but the Seraph helps him throw the Hellion off. He reveals that again. He doesn't care about Sori, but he thinks Sori is a part of a future that is clouded and he wants to see the end. I am just like him, neutral in this story, but I also look forward to seeing the end. They inform Sori of Alicia's injury and he runs to meet her. She lies on the floor recovering with blood on her back. He covers her bloody back and sits beside her. Sad. His face feels teary. He probably didn't imagine that humans were very exhausting when he was dreaming of a world with humans and seraphs living together. He communicates with Alicia in her spirit. In that conversation, she tells him she appreciates him for what he has done. She reveals that the first time she saw him in those ruins, she already knew he would be the shepherd. And when she was about to leave his world, and he told her he dreamt of a world where humans and seraphs would live happily, she knew that he had to be the one. When he came to her city and drew the sword as the shepherd, it made her look back and remain sure that she didn't make a mistake and he was indeed the shepherd. There was no one else that could have taken that position. No one could be more selfless than him. However, she doesn't have the strength to help him the way she should. She still has the people of Lady Lake to protect, and they are presently her priority. In that conversation, he had asked her to be his squire. She was glad that he found her worthy of that position, but she didn't think she deserved it. She is a mere human, and being around her for a long time would only make her a burden to him. He didn't care about the burden. All he had to do was get stronger. She asked why he wanted her to be his squire. He replies that it is because he wants them to be together at all times. She accepts to be his squire. He calls Layla to form a contract between them. She instructs them that once she makes her incantations, he is to give Alicia a name that will turn her into a spirit. To form a squire, you form a bud, which will end up bringing a fruit in the heart of the human. Layla says the incantations, and after she is done, Sori names Alicia Melphis Amakai. When they leave the realm of the spirit, Alicia recovers. He tells her the meaning of Melphis Amakai is smiling Alicia. Indeed, she is always ever with smiles. Since she is now a squire, she can now see seraphs with her eyes. She is excited to see Layla, Edna, and Micleo. After they finish settling up the city, they start making plans to separate. Alicia has to return to Lady Lake to ensure that her city and her people remain fine. She feels bad that she will be leaving Sori, but she has no choice, so she spends moments trying to bid him goodbye. This infuriates Rose, who assumes that since they are all separating, she should be mushy with her too. Why should she be mushy with a girl? Layla looks at their happy arguments and smiles that it is indeed the aim of being teens. Since Micleo can't join in this fun, he is sad. Well, if your best friend now has another best friend, you will be sad too. Rose insists that Sori shakes her hand too, and as he tries to do that, a humanized Hellion attacks Sori. The Hellion turns out to be Landon, who has been consumed by his hatred for Alicia. He brags that he will kill Sori and take Alicia's head to Bartlow so that Bartlow would know who is more important in the city. That is the first time Alicia is seeing a Hellion, so they tell her what it really looks like. Rose also screams that it was Landon that had injured Alicia. This gets Sori angry. How dare someone attack his Alicia? He is fuming with anger and he claims that Landon shouldn't exist. Layla tries to control him, telling him that he must not fight with anger or he will be consumed with malevolence and he will turn. Micleo also stands in front of him to control him, but he refuses to hear. He brings out his sword, and fortunately, he successfully controls his anger. Instead of killing Landon, he purifies him. The others are glad he could control his anger. Alicia tells them she will take Landon back to Lady Lake and will ensure that he is punished according to the law, so they do not have to worry. She bids them goodbye and returns to her city. Rose remains behind. She reminds Sori that he owed her, and she needs a favor now. Micleo and Edna do not think Rose can be up to any good, so they insist he should not do any favor for her. However, our shepherd is a man of his words, so he asks her what she wants. She reveals she wants to go to Roland's. As a merchant, she needs to make some negotiations, and the person she wants to negotiate with isn't a good person, so she thinks Sori coming with her will give her a good chance. Since they are also heading to Roland's, he asks his seraphs if they mind Rose. They accept, and he leads them on their new journey to Roland's. A new journey that comes with new challenges and difficulties, but with a stronger team, a formidable team that had gone through hell. Will they survive this new city?